The Marcia Weekes Show. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. From Barbados to Africa, voices unite. Educate minds, elevate sight. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. From Barbados to Africa, voices unite. Educate minds, elevate sight. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. Talk truth, build roots, stories unfold. Motivate change, mobilize is the mode, that's the MR code. Hey, we growing, we know it.
On every platform.
Woke up this morning, breath in my chest, heart still beating, I'm feeling blessed. After the storm and all the pain, I rise again and again and again. Tears may fall, but I still praise. Look how I reached to see this day. If you grateful, say I am. If you made it, take a stand. From the struggle to the praise, lift your voice for this day. Awesome day, awesome day. I give thanks for this awesome day. Awesome day, awesome day. I'm alive to see this awesome day. Every trial makes me strong. Every test just brings me on. Through the fire, hold the line. I'm shining now. to the top. I won't break and I won't stop. Now it's bigger than just me. Turn around and it turned to me. Every voice, every hand, lift them up across the land. We give thanks all day, all day. We give praise always, always. All night, all day, all day. We are alive. Awesome day, awesome day, awesome day. We give thanks for this awesome day, awesome day, awesome day. We are alive to see this awesome day. No weapon form could hold me down. Still I rise, I stand my ground. Favor on me, I can't deny. See the light, I testify. Every step that I take now is a blessing anyhow. When we move, when we shout, when we dance, we live in. We give thanks all day, all day, all day. We give praise always, always, all night, all day, all day.
Awesome day, awesome day, awesome day. Good evening to all of you joining us on this Marcia Weekes Show, Friday, July the 3rd. My goodness, June has gone. You know, there was a saying, June too soon, but June has gone. And here we are rushing into the second half of the year, July the 3rd. And it's a joy for me to have you with us. I'll be back with you in just a moment to welcome you. But first of all, let us announce our national pledge. This is what we, as every Barbadian, and you know, today I attended a graduation ceremony at one of our local schools, and they did this pledge in Spanish and in English. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to copy that and do it in Spanish, but I can do it in English, and so can you. So join with me as we recite our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living, to do credit to my nation wherever I go. That's a commitment I've made to my country. I have made a commitment to the Lord Jesus Christ, which qualifies me as a Christian. And also, as a result of the years of ministry, I am obviously a Christian minister. I'm not a religious one like some other persons in some other programs on some other stations that I don't know why they represent the church for at all. But that's another subject for another time. But I'm thankful to God today that I'm alive. I believe that life is one of the most important things that we can ever have. And I'm grateful to God this tonight that I am in a position to be able to be alive and to be able to be in this show with you this evening. And it's my joy to be here with you tonight. And I'm thanking God for the opportunity to share with you this evening. Let me take a few moments to welcome some of you that I'll get to welcome by name. And let me just try to run down the list that I have here. I see some of you have been waiting since around 4 o'clock, since 4:30. I was actually on the channel and I saw some persons just waiting there. And I said, wow, these people really, really love the show and are really committed to the show. So I want to thank you, all of you, for your commitment to this show. And of course, we want to encourage you to like and share. Taroni Hall, thank you. Good night to you as well. A pleasure to have you with us. And let me say from the onset how grateful I am for those of you who are inquiring with regards to my wife. Thank you, Taroni. I really appreciate you asking about her. I don't take any of this for granted. And she's doing a lot better. She's not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, we discovered a couple of years ago that she had had 2 minor strokes, which have resulted in some significant neurological challenges for her. And then, of course, as a result of being in Colombia last year, She discovered some challenges as well within the context of liver, kidney, pancreas, gallbladder, gallstones, sludge in the gallbladder. And we are trying to prepare to return because they could not perform any operations at all on her because of her physical condition. And as a matter of fact, I would never forget the anesthesiologist sitting in the consultation room with the neurologist, that if she went under anesthesia, it is highly likely that she will not come back out. And so she said, there's no way I'm going to be administering an anesthetic to you. And I am grateful to God for people like that, who the life of the patient is more important to them than anything else. And I thank God for some great, great doctors that we had in that facility. So thank you so much for inquiring to Ronnie and several others of you. Judy, really great to have you with us again tonight as well. Marcia Miller, thank you for being here. Appreciate your presence and appreciate your prayers and your reminders, everything that you do. We're concerned. We appreciate it so much. Carol, thank you as well. Good evening to you and to the loyal opposition. I agree with you 100%. Great to have you. And Marvis Lashley, again, thank you for encouraging all of us to like and share. Like and share. Thank you so very much. Really appreciate you doing that. And again, thank you. Thank you so much for asking. We are expecting, Marva, to have a good show tonight, a great show, really. And we are going to be touching on a number of subjects as we go through the evening. And we are looking forward to having a wonderful time. Judy, thank you for asking again concerning my wonderful wife. She's a beautiful girl. And I really am honored and privileged to have her as my partner. I thank God for her. And she's improving, but not out of the woods at all. All right. Let me see here. Andrea Critchlow, good evening to you. Welcome to the show as well. And Sharon P8E. Oh, you know, I have to get used to some of these names. But good night to you too, Monica Ince. Good night and wonderful to have you back with us this evening. Calendar 2463, a pleasure to have you joining us again this evening. And remember, please like and share, like and share. I'm a big girl. There you are. I am a big girl. Good evening to you as well. Trust you're having a great evening. Thank God for the rain that we had today that watered our country and helped to bring some of the flourishing greenery back up, you know, and help to replenish our water table. We are thankful for the rain. And, you know, some people were talking to me tonight about the dust. And I was saying to them, you know, I'm grateful for the dust. I thank God for the dust. Okay. And some of you might be wondering, well, why would I be thanking God for the dust? I'm just making some adjustments here to my camera. The reason I'm giving thanks to God for the dust is because my understanding from the meteorologists is that when you have the dust, it reduces the probability of the development of hurricanes and storms. And of course, as you would have heard from the meteorologists, we have the El Nino coming from the west to the east with some very strong winds, high winds at the top. I understand those are the winds that knock the tops of those hurricanes off. And so we're believing God for a good hurricane season without any impacts or anything of that nature upon our country, or for that matter in the region. Good night to you as well, Matthew. Pleasure to have you with us. Lucinda, a joy to have all of you with us this evening. My goodness, so many of you. And don't get jealous if I don't share everyone. Good evening to you. And thank you for your greetings. I'm a big girl. It's nice to have you all on as well. Thank you so very, very much. I'm really appreciative of all of the comments that you all have made, particularly as it relates to my wife. I'm grateful to it. Yes, Ronnie, we do need the rain. We can do with the rain. The tropical waves are coming across. We can use the rain, but we don't need the bad weather, the hurricanes and the storms. That's definitely we do not need. All right. So thank you all so very much for your kind words. My wife is appreciative of your inquiries, and I can tell you that she's grateful. She's watching the show. She watches every Marcia Weekes show. She does not miss one of them, not just when I'm on, but she watches every one of them with Marcia, Maxine, Glyne, every one of them. She doesn't miss a show. And so I know she is watching tonight as well. So thank you all so very much for your kind words. I really, really do appreciate and you're having a great evening because you're on the Marcia Weekes Show, the favorite place to be. Okay, I'm a big girl. Okay. Thank you. And Judith, thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate giving you that update. So here we are tonight, a number of things that we want to touch on this evening. Of course, we are expecting to have Mr. Umar Abdullah with us again this evening. And of course, Apostle Scantlebury will be joining us. I don't believe that we're going to have the privilege of our ladies joining us this evening, but we're going to have a great show nevertheless. Now, before we get into this evening's activities and this evening's topics, let me just share a few announcements with you. Of course, the first one that I do want to share is the one that you're seeing up on the screen at the moment, and that is the Walk Holy Band flyer that you're looking at. And, you know, it's Barbados is a unique island, and we're heading back home. Walk Holy Kadooment Band heading back home. Kadooment Day on August the 3rd. And I believe that's a video, Dave, so maybe you can just let it run while we talk a little about it this evening. I had the privilege of being in the band myself on a couple of occasions and riding on the truck. But I tell you what, Dave, just let it run, and I'll just keep quiet for the moment. Okay, just let that video run.
Walk holy on the King Highway.
Walk Holy 2026 celebrates this unique island, Barbados, and her history.
Every step we pray. Whoopity, la la la, and praise Jah.
Is asking her to return to her place of righteousness. Join Walk Holy if you too believe that Barbados needs to return to the godliness and righteousness that allowed her to punch above her weight. Call or WhatsApp us at 246-245-0396 or 246-236-7000. If you're coming in from over and away, drop us a note so we can make provisions for you. Bring your best contributions and come. Join in with Walk Holy and help us steer this unique island back to righteousness again. See you there.
Thank you so much, Dave. Walk holy. Walk holy, walk holy, God is holy, Zion's children, walk holy. I tell you, I'm ready to go. All right, so you join us, walk holy, back on the streets again, as you would have seen from that flyer at the very beginning of it, August the 3rd, I think it is, Kadooment Day, and you can register at 245-0396. Or you can call and register at 236-7000. Those two numbers again, 245-0396 or 236-7000. Is that right, Dave? I hope I got that second one correct. All right. And then I want to inform you of an upcoming event that I just saw the flyer this afternoon, and it's the Walk Holy Band, Kadooment Band, presents pure soca and social commentary. Now, this is not going to be on the 3rd of August. This is going to be on Sunday, the 19th of July. I hope you have that one today. Just bring it right up full on the screen. The 19th of July at 5:15 in the evening at the Praise Academy, Upper Calamarok. I don't recall the name of the street, but nevertheless, if you're coming up from the city, After you pass the entrance to the People's Cathedral, the turn to go to Britain's Crossroad, you come a little further up, the turn on your right-hand side just before you get to Guardian Life. And you turn in there, you go right down toward the end of it, and you will find the Praise Academy there at Upper Cullimer Rock. If you're coming down from up the Wildy area, it will be the entrance immediately after Guardian Life Insurance. Again, you turn in, make your way right down, and you will be at Praise Academy. Now, that's going to be a tremendous evening, Sunday, the 19th of July. Put it on your calendar. Kids' Sight is going to be there. The announcer is going to be there. Blood is going to be there. Juliana is going to be there. Richard Antonio and the Apache, James Leacock, and many, many more. Sammy Jane going to be there as well. Colin Spencer going to be there. It's going to be a great, great evening, July the 19th. You're not going to want to miss it, okay? So make sure that you find your way 19th of July to the Praise Academy in Upper Cullimer Rock. Now, one of the things I also want to talk about a few moments is the Strong Family Initiative that the Marcia Weekes Show is engaging with. Coming soon, not yet, coming soon. You're going to be able to watch the FIFA World Cup finals with Dad. That will be this month in July. You will be able to do so. Dave, if you could just bring that up a little bigger, that they can see it really good and clear. Oh, that's on the, is that on the 19th as well, Dave? Why? Oh, at 1 o'clock. Okay, so it's going to begin at 1 o'clock on the 19th with that. Watch the FIFA World Cup final with your dads. Come on. And then they're going to go into this pure soca and social commentary at 5:15 in the evening. But also, coming soon, you'll be able to go back to school with Dad. And that'll be in September. And of course, one of the very memorable days we're always looking forward to in the annual calendar, Christmas with Dad in December. And your help is required. Your help is needed, especially for the watch the FIFA World Cup finals with Dad. They need some volunteers. They need some sponsors. And I should be saying we need some volunteers. We need some sponsors, and we need some community partners. So help us with this, that we can get these assistance, volunteer assistance, sponsorship, and community partners as well. And then for our education program at the Praise Academy, again, children's books. If you have any children's books that you can donate, just today, I watched a young man receive an award for reading. It's like reading has gone through the door since we've got all this technology available to us, reading the books. Computers or laptops, if you wish to donate educational supplies or financial support. And then, of course, literacy volunteers, persons who would be willing to contribute to the learning of these young people as well. So, we look forward to you being able to support us during this time. And I believe, Dave, you have something there to do with a crop over spotlight, and I'm just going to let you run that. Yes, that elevate literacy. That's the one I was just talking about. And we want to get your assistance there, ladies and gentlemen, for children's books, computers, laptops, educational supplies, financial support, or your voluntary help, maybe in reading. Those of you who may be formerly teachers, and you're able to come on in and assist as much as you can. And now I also see something here, Dave, about crop over spotlight. And I think I have a spotlight right here. I have a spotlight right here. See it right there. So maybe we can go into that, Dave, that crop over spotlight. Let's see what this is about. Of course, coming up, as you know, Kadooment on the 3rd of August, and we are certainly going to be looking forward to that. Okay. So I don't know, Dave, if there's something there. Is that it? Oh, yes, the Matura Feeding Program. Thank you for reminding me of that. Want to remind you all to continue to support this feeding program in Africa. We had some of them on some time ago, and maybe we can revisit that at some time in the future. And we are certainly appreciative of all Yes, I am, Taroni. I am indeed spotting the light. I am indeed spotting the light. Um, that feeding program, we really appreciate your assistance there for it. And I believe that might be even a video, Dave. So can you go ahead and run that for us, please? Go right ahead.
Matura Primary School in Western Kenya is home to 700 children ages 3 to 13. These children face an uphill battle, not just with their studies, but with hunger. Join us as we partner with the Matura Primary School in launching the Matura Primary School Feeding Program. This initiative is designed to provide every child with a bowl of hot porridge each morning before classes begin for just 25 USD per year. You can help to make a difference by providing breakfast to a child, ensuring that they start the day with the energy and focus they need to learn. Together, we can be the change that we want to see, one bowl of porridge at a time.
Well, thank you so much. Please, donations can be made via PayPal, step-by-step films at gmail.com, or you can WhatsApp. Just bring that back up again, David, that if we can get that information back on the screen with regards to the donations for the Mature program, if you could just pull that back up and put that up, that we can see that. We were just about to talk about where the donations can be made. I don't know if you can find that segment and just highlight it and pause it there so that persons can see if they're interested, if they're willing, if they'd like to donate to the feeding program in Africa. These young children it's really important for them to at least have this hot bowl of porridge every morning. It really helps them in terms of their learning and all these aspects a child really requires at the start of the day. All right, so we're going to do what we can. There it is. If you could just make it a little bigger. I don't know if you can, Dave, but 2367000 for details on the local Barbadian bank account. There's a local account to which you can contribute as it relates to the Mature Feeding Program. And when you make your donations, we're asking you, please indicate Matura School Feeding Program. Please indicate that step-by-step times at gmail.com, or you can WhatsApp 246-236-7000, because some persons could be watching this from other parts of the world. So make sure that you get in the area code 246-236-7000, and donations can also be made via PayPal. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
We had this absenteeism and we had this low enrollment in school, because it was not very able for the children to come to school, especially when they are hungry. So when we began the program, we never expected, maybe we are so grateful that tremendously right now the impact is so high that now a lot of children are now coming, rushing to school, and just to have that meal, that a cup of hot porridge in the morning. And this one has really increased their concentration in school. So we are looking at a situation where now children now are able to improve in their performance. We are looking at a situation where children, especially those who could not have the concentration is very high in class. So we are looking at a situation where children now even just come to school very early in the morning, rushing, just knowing that at least they are going to have that cup of porridge. So it has had a tremendous impact on the children.
Thank you so very much, Dave. Really appreciate you sharing that information with us. And thank you all for contributing and helping to make that outreach there in Africa a success. So just remember, give them a call, 246-236-7000, or you can do so via PayPal, step by step, I think it is, at gmail.com. And you can be in touch with them to make your contributions. Now, I want to move into the first segment this evening, if I can. And we have been having some. I'm seeing Dave put up that's the crop over spotlight. Okay, I am going to just pause and let Dave run that light. Where's my spotlight? The crop over spotlight. I'm shining the light on things. Amen. Okay, Dave, go right ahead and run that video for us.
Protect me, Father. Hey, 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 hey. Holy Father, walk with me. Oh my God, protect me. Holy Father, walk with me. Oh my God, oh my God. Be dead, press our shoulders, be dead. When they talk to him, Jesus is my friend. Holy Father, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Oh, 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 oh. Center, 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 center. No ifs, no buts, no pardon. God with me every morning. Him deserve you types of praise. He answer me when I call him. Never ready for war him. Word of God's call him. And I drink has done. Build my faith. Like before I can charge him. Hey, Holy Father, walk with me. For my God, protect me. Holy Father, walk with me. Oh my God, oh my God. Defend, press our shoulders. Defend. When me talk to him, Jesus is my friend. Holy Father, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Oh, 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 oh. Center, 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 center. Yo, Father God, protect me. You know why? Hey, too much crime and violence inside the street. Make the feel like some of bad boys bring the heat. AK-47 gunshots on repeat. Gunshots on repeat. Somebody hit concrete. Father armor, protect me every day on you. Recite a prayer every day and night for me sleep. I stay with God, so me coulda never get defeat. Bible in me reach, fit time me I teach. So Holy Father, walk with me. For my God, protect me. Holy Father, walk with me. Oh my God, oh my God. I to defend. Defend, press the soldiers, defend. But they have to end, Jesus is my friend. Holy Father, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Oh, 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 oh. Center, 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 center. Anyway, God is coming, anyway, God is coming. Let it come, my Lord, boy, let it come, my Lord, boy. God is coming, God is coming. Let it come, my Lord, boy, let it come, my Lord, boy. Never drag for noise, 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 never drag for noise. Follow me, hey. Thank you, Father, thank you, Father, thank you, Father, Father, thank you, thank you, Father, thank you, Father, thank you, Father, Father, thank you. I love you, God. Hey, 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 I love you, God. Thank you. I love Warner.
Well, that's the young people doing it for you. That young man just doing it. And thank you, Father. You know, I'm going to tell you this. Be careful. Stop for a minute. I can hear some of your thoughts, you know, and look, I would prefer see the young man performing on stage than I would see him in the morgue or on the corner on the street with a gun. At least it says to me that we have not all of our young men. And there are young men he's going to touch that not even I will be able to encourage or affect in any way or shape or form. Yeah, and I was thinking, boy, I tell you, I don't have that kind of energy. I don't. Maybe I used to, but not now. Not now. All right. So we thank God. I really do. I thank God for the young people that are stepping up to the plate and showing that there's another way to go. There's a different direction to go other than where some of our young people are heading. So, you know, let's encourage them. Let's get behind them. And, you know, it's very easy to tear down. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a really good builder to tear down. You can take a backhoe and you can knock anything down, but it takes a real architect, a real builder, a real contractor to build up and make things. So we want to see our young people not only serving the Lord. I certainly want to see them serving the Lord, but I want to see them making for a better Barbados. And just today, again, a young man that delivered valedictorian. No, actually, he delivered the major speech at the graduation that I attended. And he was a former student in the school, and he is about to graduate from one of the secondary schools, and he was brilliant. He was brilliant. And one of the things he said is that he has an interest in being involved in politics. And I said to myself when I heard it, I said, thank God for this young man. He's serving the Lord. He wants to be involved in politics. He wants to see a better Barbados. And listen, don't tell me, don't get, that Christians and good young people shouldn't be involved in politics. We are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. If we don't get involved, the earth will stink, the country will stink, darkness will take control, and that is not something we are going to sit back and see happen. As a matter of fact, talking about darkness taking control, this brings me to the first thing I wanted to touch on very quickly. There's two things I want to touch on before Mr. Umar Abdullah joins us. The first one has to do with our healthcare system. I saw some very disturbing information coming in, and I want to share this with you because we have been investigating reports of prescription quotas at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital pharmacy, patients leaving without medication, essential medication shortages. I mean, what in the world is going on? It's like every week, every day is something else. Concerns affecting cancer and dialysis patients. I'll tell you this. My wife said to me, and please appreciate it because her life is on the line. And she said to me, Ferdinand, don't take me to the QEH because I want to live. She said, don't do that. And I know it's going to cost us to go somewhere else, but I want to live and I want to know that I'm in very, very good hands. Now, I've heard some testimonies, one or two testimonies from some persons regarding some doctors. And I think it was John Ruitt that spoke about, he had a very close call as well. And he was thankful to the doctors that were there at the time. Not all of the staff, are challenged in any way, shape, or form, but a lot has to do with the administration aspect and the infrastructural componentry of the QEH. And we're giving away $220 million of property just across the street from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital that could very well serve for an extension of improvement for the QEH. And we are all right. So this should be cause for concern. I received a notice, or I received some information about a 70-year-old cancer patient that contacted the show, arrived at the QEH at 12 minutes after 8. According to that individual at the pharmacy, numbers were already gone. The numbers that you would pull to go into the pharmacy were already gone, and he therefore could not get his medication. He then went for what was supposed to be his final chemotherapy treatment. He says he was told the medication needed for his chemotherapy was not available and his treatment could not be given. He and the other cancer patients who were waiting now have to wait until the medication becomes available. Do these people understand that they're dealing with the lives of people? Doctors have taken an oath. And I am not reflecting, on any of the professionalism of the doctors or nurses, because I know many of them at the QEH and I know they're doing their best. But this is an administrative disaster that has to be addressed. This is unacceptable. How can we be talking about these kind of things at our premier medical facility, and then people are looking at us and telling us, well, we should be thankful because it's better than some of the others in other parts of the world, you know, and other parts of the Caribbean. That is not an acceptable excuse, because people's lives are on the line. This is not a joke. It's not a joke. Again, we heard about an elderly patient making repeated trips just to collect medication. Again, today, we were hearing from a cancer patient whose treatment was reportedly postponed, again, because the required equipment, medication was unavailable. The Ministry of Health and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital tell the people of Barbados, is there now a daily quota at the pharmacy? And why are patients being turned away before 8:30 in the morning? Are medication shortages affecting patient care? And why are we having medication shortages? And what emergency measures are being put in place? Folks, this, I am appealing, you know, look, I know there's something else I have to get onto, but this is burning in my system. We need parliamentary representatives who are going to represent the people who elected them to office and not the political party they are part of. That is why legislation was passed to prevent people crossing the floor who, while coming through the election campaign, I may agree with certain of the processes. What you're saying then is, if I reach a point where I don't agree with you, I have to go back to the electorate and get their approval. They have already approved me, and they've approved me as a member of parliament to represent them, not you, the party, not the Barbados Labour Party, not the Democratic Labour Party, but they've elected the persons in parliament to represent the constituents, not Barbados Labour Party lackeys and DLP lackey, the constituents of the particular constituency that they have won the seat for. And so when they get into parliament and legislation is being discussed and decisions are being made, they should be standing up for the people, not for the party. And it is time we call these politicians out. This is not 1942, 1966, 1973. This is 2026. And parliamentarians have to make a decision. Are you there to represent the people of the constituency? If you're there, do your job. We are your employer. We pay your salary. We pay your salary out of the taxes that you collect from us. And we are demanding you to represent the constituents that put you in the House of Assembly. And I make no apologies when it comes to that. I'm tired of the foolishness of political parties taking precedent over the people of this country. That's why I recite the national pledge at the start of every show on Friday evening. I pledge allegiance to my country and to my flag. I do not pledge allegiance to a political party. Most of them, as a matter of fact, I am not aware that either one of them is legally registered in this country either. But I'm pretty sure I'm correct at that. I'm pretty sure I'm correct at that. But let me move on quickly to one other thing I want to touch on before my guests join me. You know, recently I've been seeing some concerns being raised about something called, I call it ACAT. That is ACAT, ACAT. And this is not a cat as in a feline. This is an acronym, and it's an acronym. It's an acronym. Let me get it right. It's an acronym with a specific meaning, and that it stands for the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency. And my research shows some concerning aspects of this agency. And that research showed that there are some really concerning things with regards to the operation. And I want to share with you some of what I got in my research and provide you with what I observed was a political and economic, analysis of the Barbados Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency, ACAT or ACAT. That's what I call it. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, which benefited from $18 million of public funds over 5 years. This law enforcement agency was led by former Commissioner of Police, Mr. Darwin Dottin, who was removed by the former Police Service Commission on serious allegations of illegal wiretapping phones in Barbados, particularly tapping the phone of a former Prime Minister and other high-ranking police officers. This is the alleged. Remember, this is alleged. Okay, in December 2022, Mr. Dottin, the former Commissioner of Police, was appointed by the President of Barbados as the Director of the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency for a 3-year term. This is now June 2026. His contract came to an end in December of last year, and the public should be updated on if Mr. Dottin's contract will be renewed for another term. And it is my understanding that even during that time, and I'm just looking at it because I want to make sure I get my information correctly. During those 3 years, it seemed as though he operated without an oversight committee in place for his entire tenure. Now, I am speaking to a government that committed itself to transparency and accountability when it ran for office in 2018. And it would appear that since that time, these matters have gone through the door. It is no longer important for them to give account and to be transparent. And I want to say this. I am becoming increasingly intolerant of the attitude of ministers of government and this government, who seem to think that they can do what they like and nobody can question them. You are working for us. You cannot go and make decisions without consultation with the employer of to whom you are accountable, which are the citizens of Barbados. And let me remind this government, you are not a majority government. You are a minority government. Contrary to what the Prime Minister has said, she does not have a mandate. A mandate is when you command the majority of the electorate in the country, not the majority of the electorate who voted, who we understand was under 40% in total, of which the government got around 60-something%, which in truth and in fact means that they only got around 20-something% of the electoral vote in the country. That is not a mandate. A mandate is when you have 70, 60, 80% of the electoral capability of the country. That's a mandate. So we have a minority government. And that minority government must commit itself to transparency and accountability. ACAT received approximately $18 million in public funding since its establishment. And there is reasonable public interest in understanding how those funds were allocated, including senior executive compensation. And many public agencies disclose either individual executive remuneration or total management compensation as a part of their governance reporting. But when we carried out a search of the publicly available records, we could not find any official disclosure of Darwin Dottin's salary as the Director General of ACAT. These are facts. And what this likely means is that ACAT received a lump sum operating budget from which it pays its Director General and staff, and in that case, individual salaries are not broken out in the government's personal emoluments volume. Its success is measured by high-profile investigations, successful prosecutions, convictions, recovery of public funds, and measurable reductions in corruption. There is not yet sufficient enough publicly available evidence to conclude that this agency has achieved any significant impact despite an increase in public funds every year from 2022. Now, folks, this is stuff that you can't ignore. Too many Barbadians are sticking their heads in the sand, wishing these things go away. Too many of us are lackeys who are prepared to accept anything this administration does or says. And then the rest of us, some of us are too afraid to ask. Some of us just don't care. And some of us have just lost interest because we feel 30 love. No point talking because they ain't going to be listening. They ain't going to do nothing. But listen, what we need to do is come out in mass people of Barbados need to come out in mass and protest this administration as it relates to transparency and accountability. It is not a transparent government. It is not an accountable government. Even when you look at the appointments, I don't even think, I think we have a acting DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions. I think so. I think we have an acting Auditor General. And by the way, I want to congratulate for her appointment as the first Lady Commissioner of Police in Barbados. I congratulate her for that. And I hope and pray that she does a significant job and that they're able to bring to justice all those who need to be brought to justice. But these are questions that we must ask of the government, and the government has a responsibility to answer and to give an account. Today, an official red flag is being raised as a case of state secrecy, intelligence collection, government interference, and public funding can lead to a national security crisis in this country. Having rejected the sound legal advice of one of his own stalwarts, former government minister, Mr. George Payne, and the government of Barbados finds itself in another meltdown and a breach of democratic limits. Let's take a look at the government of Barbados and how they treated or managed a publicly funded government national security agency known as ACAT that received $18.2 million, its establishment 5 years ago. And I searched and found some examples of countries with walking similar paths. Right? Now, let me end this quickly by sharing some serious facts with you that were discovered as a financial audit and analysis was carried out on ACAT. Fact number one, ACAT appears to have been operating without a lawful oversight committee in place to govern the director's operations. There is no written parliamentary instrument appointing the several legally required oversight committee members. This is what my research has discovered. As of today, the government has not publicly published the names of the oversight committee members on ACAT's website or in readily available parliamentary or official documents. So who exactly has the director been reporting to? The only senior official publicly identified as Darwin Doughton, who serves as Director General and is responsible for the day-to-day management of the agency. He's the only senior official publicly identified. That could signify the director has been taking instructions directly from the Attorney General or the Prime Minister. I said it could signify that. Under the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency Act of 2021, ACAT is not governed by a traditional board of directors like many statutory corporations. Instead, the Act establishes a 7-member committee that provides oversight of the agency. The Act specifies that the committee must consist of 1, a retired judge for 5 years, 5-year term, a retired officer of the Barbados Police Service of at least the rank of Assistant Commissioner, again a 5-year term, a retired officer of the Barbados Defense Force of at least the rank of Colonel, again for a 5-year term, a Minister of Religion, again a 5-year term, and 3 additional members with expertise in financial matters, anti-corruption matters, and public procurement matters, those 3 for 3 years on 3-year terms. So this is somewhat unusual, as many Barbados statutory bodies publish the names of their board or committee members on their website. And in my research, I could not find any official publication identifying the names of ACAT's committee members. And we are told, what was that? We are committed to upholding the highest standards of ethics and fairness. I searched the available official sites and sources, including the online gazette, and still could not find a published notice naming the members of ACAT's committee. Mr. Doughton's contract has now expired. Fact 2, Strong objections were raised by the former president of the Barbados Bar Association, Rosalind Smith Miller QC, about how the Director General is appointed and excessive law enforcement powers given to the Director. The Prime Minister appoints both the Director and the Oversight Committee members without any reference to Parliament. In a stinging rebuke, George Payne warned that no one person, this is former member Parliament for the Barbados Labour Party, no one person should appoint all of these committee members. Well, if you are appointed and you are on a contract, then you're accountable to the person who appoint you and not to the people of this country, who you're supposed to be able to carry out your duties representing them, so that if there's any level of corruption, even at the height of the Prime Minister, that the Director should be able to take the appropriate action as independent of that individual, whoever that person may be. But let me hurry along and close on this. The third fact is that ACAT operates without parliamentary scrutiny. There is no parliamentary scrutiny over ACAT despite receiving $18 million in taxpayers' money. No committee information, no gazette notices, no government notices, no annual reports, no financial statements, no legal mechanism to summon the Director. Now, listen to this. In Greece, in 2024, the Prime Minister was engulfed in the Greek Watergate scandal. The National Intelligence Service was caught using illegal predator spyware to wiretap opposition politicians and journalists. This is where they had unfettered power to appoint. In Spain, in 2022, the Prime Minister faced massive crisis when it was revealed that Spain's intelligence agency used Pegasus spyware to hack the phone of other leaders. And even in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau scrutiny during the public inquiry into the foreign interference. Intelligence leaks from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service revealed his administration allegedly ignored warnings that foreign actors were secretly meddling in Canadian elections. Well, if this is happening in all these other parts of the world, what makes people think that it's not going to happen here in Barbados? We are about to embark on the drilling of 13 million barrels of crude oil off the coast of Barbados. And I'm saying to you, I have looked at Barbados is on the corruption index and quite high here. Quite high in the Caribbean as well. It is quite high in the Caribbean. And it leaves me to wonder if corruption is present, and I'm saying it. Answer these questions to show, give us the transparency, make yourself accountable to the people of this country, provide the evidence. If corruption, because all of this that I've just shared with you opens up a massive door for corruption. And if that is happening, and we ain't even tapping our oil yet, you could imagine what is going to happen when we tap in to these oil sources that have been discovered off this island. The government has to answer these questions. We are the loyal opposition. Don't get vexed with me, Madam Prime Minister, or ministers of government. Don't get upset with me. Answer the questions. We employ you. We are your employer. Answer the questions. Answer the questions. Provide the transparency and give an account of your stewardship. That is what the people of Barbados are demanding. Well, let me move quickly on to my next segment in the show tonight, because I want to give good eartime to my good friend from Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Umar Abdullah. And Umar, I welcome you again to the Marcia Weekes Show this first Friday of July. And it's a joy to have you joining us. Last time you were with us, we were discussing the matter of COVID-19 vaccines, getting a little feedback from somewhere on your mic, somewhere back there, just to let you know. and you might
You
not
know,
be
it's a
from
pleasure.
aware.
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me clearly?
Oh yes, hearing you loud
Right.
and clear.
It's a pleasure. It's
Loud
a
and
pleasure
clear.
to be here. Pleasant good evening to all your
Great to
listeners,
have you.
viewers, locally, regionally, and abroad as well. I know your program has gained a lot of prominence, especially amongst those persons who are doing real thinking and who really critical of the powers that be, throughout the region and outside of the region as well. Um, so how have you been?
I've been doing pretty well, Umar. Thank you for asking. Really appreciate that. I know this evening you're going to be sharing with us on the whole aspect of vaccine injury throughout the Caribbean, because people need to realize it's not just in Barbados, which incidentally, I'm sure you've heard of the first case that the government is being charged with here for vaccine adverse injuries. But also the government's responses through the Caribbean and the international developments, and what lessons are in all of this for Barbados. So I'm going to leave, get out of the way and just let you go and share with us all that you need to for this evening.
Right. So again, thank you for having me, and let's see how I can do justice to this particular issue. The thing about it is that within recent times, we have been hearing and we have been reading a lot about these injuries that is occurring as a result of persons receiving the jobs. Now, what is very, very interesting though, it's an interview, wasn't an interview, was an address that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago had given to her supporters back in 2024, September of 2024.
Yes, yes.
When they won the election campaign. All right, this was before she went into government, and she was very, very critical. And I will get to that later on in the program. She was very, very critical of the then government or the then administration, with the way they would have approached the COVID, and she spoke a lot about some of the the jobs that they would have used and their preferences and so on, and a number of things that she said. But like I said, I'm going to get into that after I go through in some detail what has been happening locally and regionally, and in South America and North America as well. Now, across the Caribbean, South America, North America, as I said, lawsuits over alleged COVID-19 vaccine injury have been filed, and we know this for a fact. But most of them remain unresolved until this, up until this time. Because they face major legal obstacles, some of them, due to government's liability shields. All right, so there are a lot of these different impediments in the way with respect to people getting their way in court as it relates to addressing these issues of vaccine injury and so on. In Barbados and Trinidad, as we know, individual cases are in court presently, and we don't want to talk too much about it because we know how that goes. While in the US and Canada, compensation programs do exist, but they criticized as being very slow and inadequate. South America largely relies on civil law systems and compensation funds rather than direct lawsuits. All right, so there are different systems that the public and persons who have been affected by these injunctions have to face in different, depending on the region or where you're from, your jurisdiction. In Barbados, we know 2024, between 2024 and 2026, a woman sued the government, alleged blood clotting and vasculitis after AstraZeneca doses that she received in 2021. The claim, I think, was filed under the Consumer Protection Act. I stand to be corrected, arguing the vaccine was defective. She's seeking damages for pain, suffering, loss of earnings, and negligence in failing to support vaccine injured citizens. And of course, that case is ongoing. In Trinidad and Tobago, 2025, a lawsuit was filed after the death of Alicia Ciberan Francis, age 27. She was diagnosed with vaccine-induced transverse myelitis following the Pfizer vaccination. Now, there were other individuals as well who had a similar situation as hers, and that's one of our sisters by the name of Felicia, and she would have had a similar circumstances happening to her. She was wheelchair ridden for a very long time. She was, had difficulty in mobility. She had cognitive difficulties as well, and she practically had to start from scratch and learning a lot of things all over again. And she's still going through that process. Thank Almighty God, she's still alive, but the hardship and the challenges and the trauma that she and her family had gone through has been horrendous. There was another young man by the name of Kiel. I think he's of Spanish origin. He would have taken the job here as well, and he would have suffered, heart issues as a result of these injections. Now, why I'm particularly mentioning these three cases, one of our trade union leaders, Anisat, he would have come forward and he would have raised this issue live. It was carried over television, TV6 and other media and so on. They would have wrote about it and reported out on it and so on. So these three cases were very much in the public domain, as it relates to vaccine injury. As you all know, Miss Ciberan went on and she passed away. And now that matter is before the court. The husband is suing the government for negligence and so on in that matter.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
the thing about it is that now the claim that Ciberan has filed, it alleges a breach of obviously constitutional rights, lack of informed consent. And as we know, informed consent is very important when you are about to receive a medical intervention, or if a medical intervention is being applied to someone, a child whom a parent is responsible for, etc., etc. Informed consent. And what is very, very quickly, what informed consent is that the medical practitioner has to inform the patient or the parent, if there's a child involved, of the adverse effects of this particular, medical intervention, whatever it is. And not just that, but also advise the parents on if there is an alternative to that particular drug or that particular intervention, and the side effects and the effects of that other alternative intervention as well. And if the person decides at the end of hearing all of that, if they decide to continue with the intervention, they will go ahead and accept, or they could reject it. They could say no outright. The parent could say, no, I don't want my child receiving that intervention, or I don't want to be part of this. I would try to use some herbal medicine, or as the case may be. That's your right as a patient, all right? And that was never the option during the COVID. That was never the option that was given to no one. No one was ever told the side effects of these jabs, right? And we all know sometime after, where the document, that Pfizer document, was released, with all the side effects of those jabs and what could possibly happen to, and this also included death, and it included other adverse, reactions to pregnant women, etc., etc. And that list is there. It's available for whosoever wants to view it, etc., etc. All right. So constitutional rights, lack of informed consent, and negligence under the Food and Drug Act. Now, recently in Trinidad and Tobago, we had a commission of inquiry into the operations of the Food and Drug Department, the division, which would have been, selectively allowing certain drugs to enter the country without scrutiny, and also selectively preventing persons from bringing in other types of drugs and supplements in Trinidad and Tobago. And this has come under heavy scrutiny, this commission of inquiry that is taking place presently. I think it was concluded, I can't remember, but there was a lot of issues raised and questions and so on and so forth. So from the onset, we can see that the Food and Drug Division here in Trinidad and Tobago was culpable and complicit, right, in all of these issues that was taking place as regards to those drugs, because you had a responsibility to have checks and balances in place to ensure that these drugs or these interventions were safe, because the government did say that it's safe. You can take it, and you have to take it in some cases in order to hold on to your job. And if not, in Trinidad and Tobago, we had an issue where the government wanted to fire people and not pay them their salaries if they were not taking the jobs, etc., etc. All right. So proceedings were initiated against the Minister of Health and the NCH and the NCRHA, and that case is also pending before courts. Now, the general trend in South America, the South American countries, operate under civil law systems, as I said, which with compensation funds rather than direct lawsuits. All right. So so if you want compensation in the South American countries, there is a civil suit that you can apply to the courts in order to get compensation. All right. So that's the same in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm not too sure it's done in Barbados, but in Trinidad and Tobago, if you have some redress as regards a particular issue with a company, with an individual, you can file civil lawsuits in the courts where you can get compensation, and you can sue that individual, etc., etc. So legal protections for healthcare workers and governments also limit liability in this particular case, and the compensation funds exist in countries like Brazil, Argentina, and Chile, but payouts are very rare and require strong medical evidence. Of course, you'll have to provide all the necessary evidence and arguments and scenarios and so on in order for you to be successful in accessing that compensation. You just can't go and say, well, okay, I got this job in 2021, and I'm feeling extremely sick and fatigued and so on and so forth, and I'm suffering with this, that, and the other, and expect that you're going to, okay, come into the office, we give you a check, and we tell us what it's costing you in medical expenses, etc. It's not going to happen that easily. You're going to have to actually prove. You have to provide medical records, and you're going to have to connect the dots and connect the dots and so on, so that you'll be able to prove your case. In North America, however, in the United States, there has been direct lawsuits against the manufacturers, and the most of these lawsuits have been blocked by something called the PrEP Act. All right, you can look it up, PREP Act, which grants broad immunity for some of these pharmaceutical companies and so on. Injured individuals must file under the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, which is CICP. Over 11,000 claims have been filed thus far, but fewer than 1,000 has been resolved. Only a small fraction was paid. Compensation also limited to medical costs, loss of income, maximum I think they're giving out is about $50,000 per year. Death benefits, they also you can probably access that as well. You're not getting no damages for pain and suffering. So this is how unique these cases are resolved or are being considered in a lot of our different jurisdictions right around us. Lawsuits are emerging challenging the constitutionality of the CICP, arguing it denies due process and jury trials. In Canada, however, Canada had established and very early a vaccine injury support program, which is the VISP, in 2021. This provided compensation for serious injuries or deaths linked to COVID-19 vaccines. As of 2025, hundreds of claims have been filed. Payouts remain again very limited and very, very slow. So we can conclude from all of this, in the Caribbean, individual lawsuits are testing the government liability and cases are ongoing. So we're very, 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 brave in the Caribbean, and we're leading the charge with regards to this challenging the government, liability in all of this. South America, compensation funds exist, but lawsuits are very rare due to civil law protections. North America, broad immunity laws block most lawsuits. Compensation programs are criticized for being very inadequate. And globally, we can see governments are shielding themselves legally, leaving the injured individuals struggling for remedies. All right. And this is something that, we have to pay particular attention to. And we have to, as a people, as bodies that are stakeholders in all of this, like myself, and like yourself as well, who continue to bring or highlight these issues, we have to continue doing a lot of research, bringing a lot of information forward, and sharing that information so that people will be emboldened and encouraged, and also we'll be able to influence people in stepping up and coming forward with their cases, all right, and challenging the system. Because if we don't do that, eventually what's going to happen is that they are going to create a robust system to such an extent that at some point in time we may not be able to even challenge it or even bring a case forward, because things would have been changed so drastically and so on. Like I said, I want to touch very briefly on that address that our present Prime Minister had given when she was in opposition. And what was very interesting about that address was that she spoke about the AstraZeneca, the Johnson Johnson, how those jobs have been rejected in certain other jurisdictions and so on. They were, these jobs did not go through the proper clinical trials, etc., and they were pushed onto the people, and it was not properly vetted, etc. So she alluded to the fact that these were very, very dangerous. It was a very, very dangerous precedent that was set during that time. She also indicated that she would have spoken to Dr. Boodoo at the time, and he is, interestingly, presently he's the Minister of Health in Trinidad and Tobago presently. And when she spoke to him then, she mentioned in that public address, I think you all have a copy of it, because Marcia Weekes had sent me a copy. Yeah, so she mentioned that when she spoke to him about it, during that time, he was very reluctant to speak about it. And he was very reluctant to guide or to give any guidance as regards to it. She even mentioned to him that she wanted to bring in, a whole lot of masks and distribute for the people free of charge and so on and so forth. And he, told her, no, let's not do that. We have to look at the science. and what have you. And we know what the science said about those masks and so on and so forth. So even at that time, our present Minister of Health knew fully well the dangers of these injections, the dangers of wearing the mask, and all these nonsense that was taking place at the time. But he, a doctor within the system, depending on the system, controlled by the system, was afraid to say anything regarding it. And the question is why it is you're in government now. You spoke about it then. What are you doing about it now that you're in government? The very same doctor that you spoke with, he is the Minister of Health. What conversations are you both, the both of you, having as a result of these cases that's coming forward now, and so on and so forth? I want to remind the listeners, if they would have probably missed it, because I did mention it in numerous times before, that we would have put together a criminal file. We had a meeting with some of the top brass in the police service, and we handed them this file. All right, this file containing evidence, this file containing references, study cases, peer reviews, etc., etc., that was addressing the issue of the jobs at that time and the harmful effects of these jobs. We have indicated in that criminal file countries that would have went that way, started to inoculate their people. How many of these countries we've seen astronomical rise in deaths, and we have the evidence we have provided for them, which was more or less the same communication or correspondence that we would have sent to the medical board, the Food and Drug Division as well. So we have letters, we have documented letters that we have written to these institutions, informing them and warning them of this, this issue surrounding the injections and so on, and how we advise them that they should not have allowed their population to be inoculated with these injections. All right, because we warned them, we did tell them further down the road, 3 years plus, we're going to see a number of persons dying as a result of taking these injections, and if not, dying, but at least they will be facing a lot of medical, circumstances on very mysterious circumstances surrounding the health and so on. We've seen in Trinidad and Tobago a number of cases, a number of police officers, they would have died during the period. All right, we have never seen so much young police officers died in our police service. We have never seen so much of our entertainers, people who are in the entertainment industry, have lost their lives as a result of taking these injections. A lot of them will deny it, but I mean, you could only conclude that this is possibly what it is took place. And as I always try to reason with people, I would use this analogy. For instance, a couple of people going to a restaurant, eating in that restaurant, and they all go home and they get sick after going home. They go to the doctor. An obvious question the doctor is going to ask is, what did you eat? Where did you eat last? What did you have? And they would all say, well, we went to this restaurant, we had this food, and so on and so forth. And it will be a natural concurrence of the doctor that, possibly could be the food that you eat at the restaurant. Why has not that been the case with the injections? When so many people taking the injections, going to the doctor after, going to the health institutions after, going to the hospitals after, and complaining about not feeling well, complaining about all these different, fatigueness and so on and so forth. And you are saying to these people, it is not the injection. So then what it is? How come all of a sudden people are coming to you, people are dying with cancer, stage 4 cancer, they even get in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, full-blown stage 4.
Wow.
All right? Full-blown stage 4. And they're dying, right? Never had cancer before, never had health problems before, never had, stroke issues before, never had clotting before, never had any issues before. People are just dying all of a sudden. dropping dead all of a sudden. And we're seeing it happening, but nobody is taking the matter to the extent where they're questioning or bringing the state to account for these injuries and these deaths and so on. We have one particular case that we are focusing on presently because that is before the court, and we're hoping that this case may be able to set a precedent. Other people might be able to benefit from it and come forward and get some sort of compensation for the injuries and so on. So we have to see how this is going. Recently, we have also started to look at the immunization program in Trinidad and Tobago, where students are being forced, or parents are being forced to inoculate their children, even though there have been cases of serious side effects after taking these inoculations.
That's right.
One particular parent has indicated to us that two of her children have gotten the immunized, and one had a very adverse reaction regarding the mobility of his legs, and the other child had an adverse reaction of speech impairment. And the parent is very, very reluctant now to inoculate the child that is supposed to be going to school now. And the school is telling the parent, if you don't do it, he's not going to be able to come to school. All right, so he has to be inoculated. He has to get it. So that parent is willing to come forward, and we have spoken to our attorneys and so on, and we are going to push forward with this particular issue as well. But it all boils down to the same thing: medical intervention that has not been tried and tested in the manner it should have. All right, it's unsafe, and it's been pushed on the population, unsuspecting population. And people are getting adverse reactions. There are studies that is out already, which indicates that children who have not taken these injections or these shots when they were small fare better in life. They live a healthier lives. They're more productive in school, and they're normal children. Okay. Children who are taking those injections suffer, a lot of them suffer with ADHD and certain cognitive, ailments and so on and so forth, psychologically and what have you and so on. So, these are serious issues. And, there are countries I've looked at, countries such as the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark and Norway, Austria and Switzerland, and some of the US states. They have not mandated vaccines as a part of the children being able to access education and so on. In the United Kingdom, vaccines are strongly recommended but not legally required, as in Trinidad and Tobago. It is in our constitution, our law books, where children have to be immunized before they're accepted into the schools. Why should that be a requirement for education? All right, in the Netherlands, no mandatory vaccinations for schools, none. Right? Uptake is high due to public trust, but registrations does not require proof of the child being vaccinated or whatever. In Sweden, childhood vaccines are recommended but not compulsory. Schools do not block unvaccinated children from attending schools. All right. Why can't Trinidad and Tobago? I'm not too sure what's the case in Barbados, but why can't Trinidad and Tobago adopt some of these things? Look at the population of these different countries, the population of the children and the schooling atmosphere, the schooling environment, and so on, and investigate whether or not there is any cases of outbreaks within these schools and so on as a result of these children not taking these injections. In Austria and Switzerland, vaccination is recommended but not enforced for school attendance. Why is that being done in Trinidad and Tobago? These are first world countries we're talking about. We're classified sometimes as a banana republic. Like we want to go down in history as being the worst banana republic that has ever existed. Some of the U.S. states, as we know, the governing body and structure in the United States is very different from ours. So while most states require vaccines for school entry, exemptions exist. All right, for religious purposes, medical purposes, or physiosophical purposes. For example, states like Idaho and Texas allow broad non-medical exemptions. All right. So the thing about it is that um, the, the many countries, and I've labeled some of them, that do not require these things. Why can't we? I mean, what we see happening on a regular basis is countries or smaller countries or developing countries tend to look at the data and look at what is happening in other countries with respect to similar circumstances in those countries, and we take an image out of there, and we try to adopt it in our own country and tweak it as we could to adopt to fit into our system and within our laws, etc., and so on and so forth. And we adopt these policies. Why have not we as yet adopted these policies that is obviously working in other countries? Why are you preventing children from gaining an education in Trinidad and Tobago by forcing them to have these injections, etc., etc.? All right. But coming back to the question of COVID, all right, COVID was a time where they were able to, imply or, push on the population these interventions with impunity to the point where persons who would have died during that period, they all died as a result of COVID. No matter what they went into the hospital for. You could have gotten in an accident. You fell on and busted your head, died as a result of that. But when you go to the hospital, your death certificate would indicate died as a result of COVID, because they're going to put you through the test that you had COVID, and that's what they're putting on it. Autopsies was never done in Trinidad. All right, they were not doing autopsies, so there was no credible evidence as to say that this person did not die of COVID, this person died of this. There was none. So the state was culpable in that regard, because why would you not want to have an autopsy? The very purpose of an autopsy is to decide whether or not, or to see whether or not how a person would have died. Okay, and in most instances, these autopsies are done to point fingers or to lay blame on someone else, or as the case may be, and so on and so forth. So we have these things happening with impunity within our countries, and the people, the citizens, are constantly accepting these things as what can we do? There's nothing that of course you can do something. You can speak out. You can come out in the open and talk about your injury. Talk about what took place when you took these injections. The more you speak about it, is the more people are going to be convinced that something necessary has to be done. There are people who are still living in denial. They're sick as a result of this injection.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of them personally. They're sick as a result of these injections, and they would not admit it that this is because of the injections. They wouldn't that. They would, all other things, everything else, they would want to blame or say that was responsible and so on. But it is obvious before you took it, you were good. You were well. You were all up and about, and you were healthy, and you were going about your business. There was no fatigue. There was no tiredness. Nothing like that. As you took this injection, you're complaining of tiredness. You can't walk up the flight of stairs, because you're panting for breath, and when you go visit the doctor because of these issues, the doctor is telling you you have high blood pressure and you're suffering with this, etc., etc. And lo and behold, Monday morning, you get up, the doctor is telling you, hey, you have stage 4 cancer.
That's. I mean, Umar, I have heard of Hollywood personnel, Hollywood persons who had no issues, schizophrenia, epilepsy, and other. I can't remember all of the particular medical issues. Had nothing, and shortly after receiving the injections, these aspects developed. There was, I remember, testimony I watched of a lady who took the injection, and she is developed a whole psychological, neurological issue that she never had in her life. And I don't know if you have been observing it, but I've been observing that I think it's Robert Kennedy, I call him the Minister of Health in the United States of America, has been pushing back very hard at the whole aspect of the immunization of children. It is not that he doesn't believe in it. He does believe in injections and immunizations and so on, but he believes that these things need to be more thoroughly tested because they're having some very serious side effects and adverse effects with children. I know persons, in terms of the testimonies that are given, who develop autism as a result of it, where the child was suffering from nothing at all prior to the injection, and then suddenly after the injection developed this autistic issue and so on. These are realities, Umar, but unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry is a multi-trillion-dollar, I call it, industry, has phenomenal legal luminaries behind it, billions of dollars at their disposal. And they fight along with governments to resist any liability with regards to this. I don't know if you had heard of it, but I heard that at the beginning of the pandemic, the Brazilian government was approached by Pfizer, and they were required to indemnify Pfizer from any adverse side effects, and to provide the injections for their country, and wanted the Brazilian government to put their national assets at risk in terms of compensatory aspects. I don't know if you'd heard about that. I didn't hear much in terms of the media.
Yeah,
But I did receive.
that is correct.
Yeah, and I understand it is alleged that certain Caribbean governments were promised. I don't know if it was actually done or not. Notice I say alleged because, as you know, we have to be very careful on the show how we say things. But it was alleged that they were being compensated $17,500 per injection.
Well, what we know for sure is that a bond, a COVID bond, was set up in 2017 by the World Bank and some other institutions, and countries were incentivized to report their injuries and deaths and so on as a result of these injections. And the more injuries and deaths they had, they would have gotten more monies. We know for a fact Trinidad had gotten, I think, was about 75 million US dollars. I think it was. That was, we talked about it. It was documented. It was reported as well, in some of our news reports and so on. And the other countries would have received similar incentives as well. It is alleged that doctors were being paid incentives, or given incentives for not actually reporting these injury cases, right? Even though they had the system set up where you had to report the injuries, etc., etc. But we did our research, and less than 1% of all the cases were being reported. Less than 1%. All right. So there was a big, governments were very, very much complicit in this crime, which is why we would have presented this criminal record to our law enforcement here that criminal record is still on the shelves, and they've not done anything with it. All right, we have a copy of it. We had a number of persons signature to that report, and we have, submitted it to the top brass of the police service at the time, and they indicated that they would see to it that this matter was being investigated. And we were calling to account the Prime Minister, the Minister of Health, and the Chief Medical Officer. Now, the thing about it is that you talk about these companies having a wealth of money and power and connections and so on, and with governments, and they have the influence and so on and so forth. But I tell you something, they cannot quiet the noise. There's very little that they can do to quiet the noise. And that is what we have to constantly be doing.
Yes, that's what we
have
need to question.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Barbados, I know for a fact there are injured persons who have been affected by these injections. And you all know these persons. Bring them on the program. Let them talk about their experiences. There are one particular doctor I know that, would have been very, very opposed to these injections and so on, and would have been, an advocate for, alternative, medicine, etc., etc. If you can get that doctor to come on the program and talk about this, I know, one of the things that he'd be fearful of is he might lose his job, or he might be affected.
He might lose his license or his
license,
practice,
yeah.
because.
But we have to be very, very innovative in the way that we talk about this and the way we address it. There's nothing wrong in asking questions and demanding answers, right?
Yeah.
Because if I were to come to you, you run this program, and I were to ask you, tell me how many persons that you have invited on this program that would have given a sort of a balanced reporting to a particular issue. All right. And you refuse to give me that information, but it's well known that your program is only inviting people that's talking from your point of view, from your perspective, and pushing your narrative and your agenda. And you're not inviting persons from the other side to talk about, and give a balanced report or give a balanced, investigated outlook on a particular issue. All right. Now, damn if you do and damn if you don't. Right. And this is what it is we have to do. We have to call to account governments, institutions, for what it is they're doing. All right. And there's nothing wrong in asking them a question. I mean, how many persons have come forward and reported injuries to your ministry? In Trinidad and Tobago, there's something called the FYA, if you know, Information Act, where we could apply for this information. And we did apply, and we did get the information, and that's why we were able to take some of the cases to court. All right. I don't know how it's set up in Barbados.
I don't believe we have a Freedom of Information Act in Barbados. I don't believe so, and I believe the government is extremely hesitant in order to bring that into being. But Umar, let me just take a pause for a moment, because I see one of my guests, my next guest, Apostle Scantlebury, in the waiting room, and I'm going to bring him in because he might also be able to shed a bit of light on the matter to do with information regarding the Freedom of Information Act in Barbados. Good evening, Apostle. A pleasure to have you joining us again this evening.
Well, good evening to you, Rep. It's always good to be here with you. Always good to see you.
And as you can see, we don't have our ladies with us tonight.
Yeah.
It's just all men in the house.
all men of fear tonight, I take it. All men of fear tonight. Mr. Douglas, good to see you as well, too. Good to be on the program with you.
Yeah, man. Pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, sir. How was the fight in Trinidad so far?
Well, it has been an uphill battle. Very slippery slope. But we are managing to get there. We are, I would say, we are very, very much successful in raising the issues, highlighting the circumstances and so on. And people are beginning to pay attention. People are beginning to come forward and speak on social media. I'm seeing a lot of it happening on social media. They have not physically come out of the woodworkers yet, but we are pushing and going in that direction. We are hoping that some of these matters that we are attempting to take to court is going to cause people to come and to be more brave. We will be able to embolden people a little more that there is hope in our judicial system. And, that's where we can find our safe space. Hopefully, we hope that could happen before a totalitarian government takes control. All right, and they control everything, as we've seen attempts being happening, on a daily basis. But like I said, and I was mentioning something to two brothers in a masjid just a couple of days ago, and I told them I always like to leave something, people with something that they can, think about, something thoughtful, something that something of value when I meet with them and I leave them. And I told them, I said, look, listen, we have to be thankful that we have in Trinidad and Tobago some semblance of democracy still, where we can assemble, where we can come together, we can talk about issues, we can raise concerns about certain things that's happening in government, we can question government and so on. We can still do that in Trinidad and Tobago to some extent. All right,
that's because you have an opposition.
Be thankful for that, and let us use that opportunity now to the best of our ability, so that we will be able to protect it and secure our sovereignty. Because if we don't do that now, we are going to lose it. That time it's going to be too late. And I guess the same can be said in Barbados and other parts of the region.
Well, I mean, we've seen our loss of it in Barbados. That's the reality. We've had a government that has a 30 majority in the House. We have a government filled with parliamentarians who represent the party and not the people. We have a government that has just made it impossible for anybody to cross the floor. Now you have to go back to the electorate and go through a by-election type of situation. This is what they're demanding. And they're doing that because they're fearful. That's the reality of it. They're afraid. Because if they were not afraid, there would be no need to implement that type of legislation. You do know that there are people sitting in your parliament who don't agree with some of the things, but will toe the line because they just aren't able to go back through this stuff all over again. And unfortunately, I must say that we have developed very deceptively in Barbados a totalitarian government, where it becomes impossible to ask any questions of any government minister without them getting an attitude and getting on as if you can't question them. And that is unfortunately, Umar, the situation here. But if the people would rise up and protest and let their voices be heard, and not just a few, they would have to come to the table. That's the reality.
Absolutely.
There's one thing.
There's no other way. There's no other way.
Politicians understand. Politicians understand the vote. That's the only thing they understand.
Understand numbers.
They understand.
One thing they understand is numbers.
That's the only thing they understand. So. But let me just say very quickly, Umar, because we want to give Mr. Apostle Scantlebury. He has a number of subjects that we want to touch on. If you want to stay on with us, you're welcome to do so. I
would have to take my bow.
But that's fine. That's fine. We really appreciate every time you come on with the information, and we are hoping that you will continue to build on this information, that you can educate us and inform us, because I am mindful of the fact that the European Union has had very serious committee meetings with regards to the adverse side effects of vaccines, even though ChatGPT is saying something different. But I have been present in the sense of listening to them online. And also the United States Congress and Senate have had committee meetings with Dr. McCullough, also in European Union, and the frontline doctors. And people think it's just Dr. McCullough. There are over 1,500 highly qualified, experienced doctors who have done peer reviews, some who have had Nobel Prizes awarded to them, who have been pushing back at this matter. But as you know, mainstream media pays no attention. Governments try to shut them down. Even Dr. McCullough, when it was the pandemic period, his license was threatened. And I have a copy of his license at the moment, but his license was threatened during the pandemic to toe the line, and he refused to do that. And so we know that there's evidence there. We know there are many people that can testify to the adverse effects, many who have been affected, many doctors who can testify to the matter. And of course, you have the whole list of frontline doctors who went through the pandemic who are there. So I want to thank you for being with us tonight. And I would ask you to please continue compiling your information so that whenever we are able to have you back on again, you can continue to educate us and inform us as to what is happening and what are the potential actions that can be taken for the people who have gone through such misery, some personally and some having lost loved ones. So we really want to thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. All right. I hope you all have a wonderful night, very informative night as well. And may you be able to do justice in bringing the information to the people and getting the people to a point where they are able to take that decisive action and stand up and speak out and raise your voices.
Thank you so very much, sir. And we wish you all the best for this weekend. God bless you. And please convey our condolences to the doctor, because I did see the case where his wife she was speaking of the site of the adverse effects. I'm sorry to hear that she's passed away. Please convey our condolences to him and his family from the Marcia Weekes Show. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yes, sir.
Well, Apostle, it's just myself and you for the remainder of the night.
Oh, man.
I understand that we do have some very interesting, I would say, and serious topics to roll through, and we'll try to get through as many of them as possible. I know we want to look at the matter of BIMPay. We want to look at the matter of cost of living and food prices, utilities, solar affordability, and I don't know if we'll get the time to get to the review on the Right Honourable Freundel Stuart speech, which I thought was exposing
incredible
and revealing. Yes, sir. You know, but permit me to just step away a little bit from the focus of the show at the moment and give you the opportunity to speak on these topics that we've spoken of. Of course, you can begin with either one of them, but I think BIMPay is on the minds of many people. I spoke with persons today, and they indicated to me, no, we will not be a part of that. I'm not giving my information, and too much problems and all of that. So let you go right ahead.
Well, I'm going to start with somebody else, but you know, I tell you right now, BIMPay is really making BIMPay. You know,
no pun intended.
You know, spoke to one of my members. Told me, some of their staff members still have not been paid as yet.
Wow.
So, we'll get back to that. One of the main elements that I wanted to deal with here, as we move into this republic status. A number of things are beginning to raise their heads here in Barbados. And one of the issues that I am realizing is the issuing of titles in Barbados. Recently, we had the president, Mr. Jeffrey Bostic, removed or relaxed his military title as Lieutenant Colonel to take on the title of the Most Honourable. Now, a lot of people may think what I'm going to say as, picky or petty, whichever one they choose. But there are almost 7 to 8 persons here in Barbados already carrying the title Most Honourable. Rev, that title, the most, must belong to one person.
Yes, sir.
You cannot have so many people carrying, and the issue is the governor of the central bank, Mr. Greenidge, he carries that title. Obviously, the situation that he had where he had to apologize in the manner that he dealt with a reporter from, the community college, and then subsequently had to come and apologize publicly. That is not a dimension that anyone carrying the title Most Honorable should end up in. Okay? The fact that you spent now millions of dollars to launch BIMPay and then find out that this BIMPay app has created so many problems, because I've seen the emails from major companies that they sent out to their clients asking them to send in a follow-up email once they use the BIMPay app, because there's no real information coming through to let them know who's actually making the payment. So there's still some things that they need to iron out. So as a person who is the most honorable, this situation has made him look pretty much, as Professor Arthur would say, a boy in the yard. Okay. Now we have the chief medical officer who carries that title as well, and several individuals around the island who carries the title the most honorable. Now, in the word of God, we have the word Elohim. The word Elohim, the Hebrew word, means many making one, or one made up of many. You know that Michael, as an archangel, will never relax his military title. Okay? And if you go to the book of Revelations, chapter 12, where we see this dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, you recognize that they came to war. The dragon fought and his angels fought, and Michael and his angels fought with the dragon. So you see 7 crowns, meaning that is a dimension of royalty, and yet they are warfare. So we have a president that gives up a more powerful title, his military title, to take on a title of most honorable. That spells danger for Barbados spiritually. Okay, you cannot. We have in the Word of God where Moses, when the Lord speaks to him, he says, "I reveal myself to Abraham and to Isaac and Jacob as God Almighty." In Exodus 6, sorry. "But to you I reveal myself as Yahweh," the redemptive version of the Lord, or what we call El Elyon, which is the most high God. So you cannot have 10 gods as the most high. As a matter of fact, when we read about what we know, or who we know as Satan and Lucifer, it says, I will ascend, I will be like the most high. That's a position that is held by one main deity. So when you have 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 persons in an island carrying the title most honorable, you pretty much open spiritual doors in your country for forces to come in to cause major confusion, because that is very confusing. Because how are you going to have so many people in an island? And I know where it comes from in terms of the lodge in the background and all that. I know where all that comes from. But Rev, I'm saying the president must be the only person carrying that title.
Well, I want to ask you. I want to ask you this question. Now, prior to our becoming a republic, when a parliamentarian enters Parliament for one term, they're referred to as the Honourable. I think
Yes.
it's actually, I stand to be corrected if he's a parliamentarian or he has to be a minister. I stand to be corrected. And I'm throwing this out to you simply because I'm wondering if this transition is occurring because we have now become a republic. Because this honorable was your first term. If you served for 2 terms, you became the right honorable.
Right.
You had to serve for more than 1 term, and I think it was as a parliamentarian. I don't think it's as a cabinet minister. I think as a parliamentarian, the right honorable Owen Seymour Arthur, he had to serve for 2 terms, so you're not referred to as the right honorable. I'm just wondering if their intention in shifting to the most honorable is to try to, and I know what you're talking about, the other organization. Yes. I know that one very well. But I'm wondering if their shift to try to now rename the position as the most honorable has anything to do with the aspect of it becoming a republic, because no explanation has been given that I'm aware of. And this continues to be the problem with this administration. It continues to do things without informing the people, without explaining to the people or anything of the sort. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, from my research, it talks about the fact that this position, this title was given in regards to the Order of Freedom of Barbados. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And it's a part of I think it was the Act in 2019, came into Parliament with 2019. Then what I have in my notes, it talks also about the Order of Barbados, and this title as the most honorable apparently ranks higher than the Order of the Republic, but it is actually, from what is mentioned, it is below the Order of National Heroes. So the point that I am making is that Mr. Bostick's title as Lieutenant Colonel already outranks the Chief Medical Officer, the Central Bank Governor, all of those individuals. So I'm saying, if you really want to have order, you cannot have 10 persons carrying the same title as the most honorable. In reality, it is out of order.
Especially when they haven't made any, and don't get me wrong, especially when they haven't made any what should I say, significant contribution.
Pretty much.
Where the country is concerned, because if you look at what I think it's Angel Humble is saying there in this message, that he received the title of the most honorable in April of 2022 when he was admitted to the Order of Freedom of Barbados for his leadership during COVID-19. So there is a case, if you want to put it that way, to be made for him. But what would the chief medical officer have done to then merit the same? And you mentioned several others, and I'm curious to hear who the others are, to see what would have justified the change or the reference to them receiving this particular title.
See, so again, it goes back to show you that there's pretty much no order in Barbados at a very, very high level. And this is exactly what the enemy wants, chaos. And they're trying to figure out, how do we fix crime? But they want to deal with it from the point of view of the physical aspects. But what about the spiritual aspects of the country that are out of order, that forces of evil may possibly be using to continue the threat to disturb, our island and what we are doing here as a people? So I think what they need to do is that they need to go back. They need to readdress this issue of how they hand titles out, so that on very high levels in our nation, the order is set, the precedence is set. I don't think we have that right now. And is
there any parliamentary legislative reference as it relates to the particular title being established. You know, like I think the national heroes are to some degree enshrined within parliamentary processes. I think so. I do stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
But in other words, is there anything as it relates to our constitution, our legal framework that provides the criteria for the particular individual to receive the particular honor or
But
title?
In my pretty much research here, there's not, in terms of the republic status of Barbados and the fact that we are under an amended constitution, but there's still several things that are being done in Barbados without that constitution, a republic constitution. Okay, so I'm not certain how much weight an amended constitution can carry, because there's so many things that are being done under the amended old constitution and not a republic constitution. So you have all of these things that are happening that are supposed to be going along with Barbados being a republic, but the framework and the foundational elements that supports these things, we're not seeing them. Okay, so there's nothing coming to the public. You know, we're just hearing all of a sudden at the Independence Day and all of the different things, apparently by now, which is going to be another issue with that being downsized, according to what we're hearing. Well, we didn't downsize Carrie Festa. We certainly have no plans of downsizing Crop Over, but you know, we already have plans for November 30th. So here's the point that I want to continue to make, that when you're looking to create order, okay, and Rev, you know that at a ministry, there's supposed to be a step in order. Okay, the pastor is the visionary of the ministry, and then you have other ministers under him, but at no point do you have people on the same level. Okay, because once you begin to get there, you're going to cause pretty much issues. So how are we referring to the chief medical officer, the central bank governor? How are we referring to them as the most honorable, and we're still referring to the president as the most honorable?
Yeah, but you're almost in terms of the status, if I can put it that way, you're almost equating the status of the chief medical officer to that of the president.
Thank you very much.
Which incidentally would be difficult because it is the president, from my understanding, it's the president that actually appoints these persons. From what my research is showing me.
Okay.
From what I'm seeing in the research, the appointments are made by the president of Barbados based on the recommendation of the government, or in practice, the prime minister and the cabinet. So, you know,
that's crazy.
It's a little contradictory, conflating is the word.
It's crazy, man.
Right word. You know,
it's crazy. Because, you know, how do you make someone pretty much higher than you? His military title, and let's look at this spiritually. His military title is greater than his most honorable title, and you give up your higher title for a lower title. What sense does that make? You know, we have a president who is a lieutenant colonel, and you forfeit that title to take on a most honorable title when there are several persons within the country who are already carrying that title. I would have never done that. Now, the point that I want to make here is, if you do not have order at the highest level, which is exactly what the enemy forces want, okay? When you do not have order at the highest level, you're going to have chaos at your lower levels. See, and let's go back and help our listeners to understand something that is very, very important. As much as we are seeing what is happening, it is a clear sign that our spiritual order in Barbados is not where it is supposed to be. And I think this is something that they have to make a decision to correct if they want to stem the flow of the operation. All they needed in the Garden of Eden was someone's consciousness to go above Adam. That's all they needed. And you can see over and over and over when you have situations in Barbados where persons are overstepping their boundaries, they're overstepping their authority, they're overstepping, their powers. And we're thinking that we can continue to allow this to happen and it's not going to affect the other areas. That's not true. It's definitely affecting what's going on. And
But
I think
no, sorry. The thing that I'm just here thinking, Apostle. What is the benefit? What is the purpose? I know the lieutenant colonel, which I believe he might have given that up because he's no longer actively involved with the Barbados Defense Force. If it's still named that, I think its name had changed. I don't know if that is as a result of him giving up that involvement. I don't know if it is required, let me put it that way, for persons to relinquish titles when they leave the military aspect of life and assume a civilian aspect of life. But I understand the spiritual connotations because I think people need to appreciate the fact that, and it doesn't matter for whether you believe what your faith base is. The reality is everything that you see in the natural begins in the spiritual. Yes. Everything. And even if we look back at life, the formation of life, the creation of this world, it didn't begin in the physical, it began in the spiritual.
Correct. There you go.
As a matter of fact, it existed in God's mind before he actually said it.
Yes, sir.
So it is important for us to recognize how important. And for Barbadians, we need to appreciate and we need to embrace it because in our national anthem is enshrined the very influence of God. We invoke it through our national anthem. And I think it's important for us to pay attention to some of these aspects because it could have, and it does have, I'm saying could for those of you who may not receive particular aspects, but we hear from what we know it does have. It's the same thing that happened when our flag was buried in Ghana.
In Ghana, exactly.
People would look at you and ask the question, so what's the big deal if the flag go down in the ground? And but it has ramifications.
That's right.
And very serious ramifications. So the point that Apostle is trying to make here are the ramifications of these title shifts and what it could mean to us as a country.
Yeah. Well, even in, you're talking about crime, but even in the area of a gang, you're not going to have two persons at the helm of that gang. You're going to have one solid person.
Yeah, you spoke of the church, and even within the context of church ministry, you would have several different titles within, like the Anglican Church. You would have their deacons, and you have their reverends and their bishops and archbishops. You don't have 4 and 5 bishops.
There you go.
I don't know that you have 4 or 5 archbishops. And within the context of the Pentecostal and evangelical circles and non-denominational circles, when we have more than one pastor, there is inevitably the reference of senior pastor. So that, and there's only one person referred to in that terminology.
Right.
There's only one person referred to in terminology of the bishop. You don't have I mean, you could have more than one person as with the title bishop,
Yeah.
but that title does not refer to the specific
Yeah.
organization within the context of the country. The person may be
Yes, sir.
bishop in another.
Yeah.
You know, I'm bishop of a number of churches in Africa. I don't carry that title here in Barbados
Right.
because I am not a bishop here.
Right.
But when I go into Africa, in the area where I am appointed as I've been appointed as a bishop there,
Yes.
that holds credence there. You
Correct.
see. And this
Correct.
is what we have to understand.
Yeah, and we're dealing with, you know, you have the presiding bishop. That's the,
Yes, correct. Correct.
Even if you have other bishops, but the presiding bishop, that's the
Yeah.
top guy.
It's very similar to president. You know, every president in America, even though they step down out of office, carries the title president. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Even though they're not in office.
Yeah. Companies have their chief executive officer, and you know they have their their step in order. They have a hierarchy. But one of the things that I'm seeing here in Barbados, especially with this whole republic issue, is that this hierarchy structure is not sound. Okay, it's not sound. Something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong with the way how these titles are being brandished, you know, to persons that, as you said, have not made any significant contribution to Barbados. And we have to understand the whole idea of putting Barbados on the map through a medium should not be a criteria to make you a person carrying the title most honorable. And this is where we have to come up with the element, like what happened with Rihanna, when, you know, folk were saying at the launching of Barbados becoming a republic, it was just sprung on her. You know, we're making her, a national hero tonight.
Which is actually the highest order within the context of the country.
Exactly. So, you know, all of these are things, and I would say this, and I'm not against Rihanna. I am, you know, I'm happy for what she has accomplished as a Barbadian, you know, worldwide. Very, very happy with that. But my honest opinion, Suki King should have been a national hero way before her. Okay, it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So some people may differ, but Ronald Suki King should have had that position as a national hero for what he did when Barbados was pretty much not known in the draft world. You know, and these are things that, as I said, it's almost like it's who we want. It's come down to who we want and who we feel like giving that title to, and nothing is asked to the public. You know, these are the names of persons that we are contemplating giving this title to. You know, what's your opinion? You know, nothing like that.
You know, I'm looking at the criteria, Apostle, for the most honorable, and I'm thinking that if the order of national hero supersedes the order of the most honorable, then
Correct.
the criteria for that must be even greater than for the most honorable. And
Yes,
for the
sir.
most honorable, you need to have done extraordinary. And I think this is an important word for people to hear. Extraordinary service.
Extraordinary.
Not just service. Extraordinary. That means beyond the ordinary.
Yes, sir.
Service to Barbados, or
Yes, sir.
extraordinary service to the Caribbean diaspora, which means people who are not residing within the Caribbean region, or extraordinary service to humanity at large.
Okay. There we go.
You know, so if that's the criteria for the most honorable, then I would assume, I don't have it to hand, that the criteria for the national hero is even greater than that. It has to be if the title carries a higher in term order of the table of precedent, if I can use that terminology, it would have to carry a greater component of criteria than the most honorable. So it is unfortunate. I think that I think this is a distraction, to be brutally frank. I think that the government is doing things, which is always what they do. They create something to distract you, while over on this side they're doing things without your knowledge. And unfortunately, I believe this may be one of those things. Not that it's a distraction to yourself, Apostle. I'm talking about national level.
Yeah.
Where people are caught up. With all the paraphernalia and all this stuff. As we are moving into this is what, 2022. This will be the 4th year, I think, of us becoming a republic. And I think you would have observed the Prime Minister speaking about scaling back.
Yes,
the celebrations of this year, and we're being told, as a result of, and forgive me if I put it this way, of what is going on in the Strait of Hormuz over by Iran, and
that's so funny.
I laughed because
That's
I
so
didn't
funny.
see any scaling back where Carifesta was concerned.
Exactly.
For any reason. Even though I appreciate that, I think that there was still global unrest that resulted in increased costs around the world in different areas during the time of Carifesta, but there was no scaling back for that.
No, I thought you would talk about scaling back crop over, which is pretty much a swing right now, but there's no talk about scaling that back.
And someone said something to me today, Apostle, and I need to have this verified, because I didn't believe what the person said to me, because I said to them, I think the purpose of having Republic Day on the same day as Independence Day was a deceptive, underhanded move to try to and let me use the word in my mind, obliterate the legacy of the founding father of this nation.
I heard that.
Honourable Walter Barrow. And the person said to me, but that was forced upon her by the private sector because they did not want another national holiday. And I said, but that is ridiculous. That is a joke. How you mean we don't want another public holiday? I don't know. I don't know that companies in this country suffer so dramatically from a day. I don't know. I stand to be corrected, but I don't know that companies suffer so dramatically, having profited so phenomenally already, that they suffer dramatically from the addition of one other public holiday. Yeah. Well, I couldn't believe it. Do you know anything about that?
No, not from my knowledge. Not from one day. Not from one day. Matter of fact,
I would be surprised if the public sector could dictate to the Prime Minister what to do. Which, if they can, that is troubling to Barbados. Very troubling to Barbados.
I tell you, America is going to be celebrating their Independence Day tomorrow. And that's right. I can bet you will see the influence of the business community in their Independence Day parades and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
How they get involved in making it a fanfare and a major event. But here we don't have that. And I think to a point, what the individual said to you about the seeking to interfere with the legacy of our Walter Barrow, that is possible because I outlined, and it's actually online, and maybe Dave can find it, but when they presented the plans for Hero Square, okay, our Barrow's picture was up front. Okay, his picture was up front in the plans, looking down Broad Street. Those were the plans that they presented. When the project was completed, Rihanna's face was the one looking down Broad Street, and our Barrow is put at the back on what would be the right-hand side if you're coming up Broad Street on the left if you're coming down. He's at the back. Now you have the father of independence, Hero Square, and he's at the back. And Rihanna's face and Cigar Sobers are the faces that are looking down Broad Street. But in the plans, when they presented the plans to the people, and it's still online, you can find that picture online. Our Bowers picture was the one at the front when they presented the plans for Hero Square. And you can go online and check it out for yourself. So if you would put our Bowers picture at the front when you presented the plans to the country, and then when you actually did it, you put him at the back. That sends a big message.
What are you saying? What are you saying? You know, I just wanted to glaze past this because I want to move on to this aspect of the cost of living and food prices in our country. But you know, when there was all of this conversation concerning the removal of Nelson from Broad Street, I had to laugh. I said, you know, do people not understand? And I understand we're trying to get, you know, cut colonial ties and, you know, the vestiges of colonial. But I said, do people not understand that had it not been for Nelson, we would be speaking French, or we don't get it?
There you go.
If he had lost the Battle of Waterloo, the French would have taken control of Barbados.
Yes, sir.
And we would be speaking French. So
yes,
I think there is it reminds me almost like these stupid, ignorant, nonsensical dumbbells in America who are trying to remove statues of people because they held slaves or whatever, not understanding that you cannot change history by moving a statue.
That's it. You know, Rev, we have something in the Bible. Genesis 1 speaks about two things. Let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And what we have seen this administration done here in Barbados, they have sought to remove the images of colonialism, but they are behaving like
colonial, exactly like the colonial masters.
You see, so they've moved the image, but they've kept the likeness.
So what you're saying is they've moved the image but kept the spirit.
There you go.
That's what they've done.
And a lot of individuals don't seem to understand this, because the way how they're treating our people,
correct,
the way how they relate to our people, it's just like the slave masters. Yes. You don't need to know what's going on. You know, you gave us 30 seats, so we do what we have to do. We don't need to tell you anything. It's correct. Like, you know, I ain't putting a price onto this. What you want to know that for? Are you gonna pay? That's the kind of that's the kind of behavior that you're getting.
Correct. It reminds me of the house slave. You remember that? You remember the house slave? The house slave saw himself above and beyond all the other slaves because he was a master. Right. Even that house slave saw himself beyond the other slaves that worked in the kitchens or cleaned the houses. And for any other slave to attempt to step up there was just you know, and that's what we're seeing. We are seeing a manifestation of the house slave mentality.
There you go.
In our administration to this day.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. Right?
You know, quickly before, like I said, you know, I want to move to the matter of cost of living and food prices because, you know, I have something on that before I get there, because I want to throw it out to you and get your thoughts. But I came up over the rising by the Water Authority, heading toward the Butser statue. And I don't know if the song, I can't remember who it is that sang it, A Voice in My Head, It Speaks to Me. I can't remember the name of the Calypsonian.
I think that was Edwin Yearwood.
Edwin Yearwood.
Yes, sir.
So I would have to say A Voice in My Head spoke to me. So I would have to tell Edwin that I know what he's talking about. But I did hear this voice speak to me. And this is what it said. The chains are still on his hands. Right. The chains are still on his hands. And I was trying to figure out, what do you mean? And then as I was coming down to the statue, I realized, oh, it's the statue you're talking about. Because with his two hands raised, the chains are still hanging. And the interpretation to the thought was, we are free politically, economically, enslaved mentally.
Well,
That
Rev,
was the interpretation of
yeah,
it.
you're for years, you know, and I've said that, you know, years ago about the whole issue when I did my whole expose on Barbados and the slave trade and the slave movement here in Barbados. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the chains are still on Bassa. You know, the reality is that if they had depicted Bassa with a you know, machete in his hand, or with him with, you know, persons behind him that he was leading.
Yeah, something
You
like
know,
the
something like that.
soldiers,
It
something like
would
the
have sent
soldiers in America.
a greater message to,
Yeah.
you know. But it's always, and I'm cautious of certain persons in Barbados that seem to be used whenever something of this nature needs to be presented, because in Bridgetown in the Heroes Square, there are chains there.
Yes.
Okay. And again, you know, why are the chains still there? You know, why is it that every time we're trying to present something that speaks to our freedom, that speaks to our mental releases, you know, great man Bob Marley said, you got to emancipate yourself from mental slavery, you know. And I don't necessarily agree with the fact that he said only we ourselves can free our minds, because it'll take God to free our minds.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Absolutely.
But the point that I want to make is that whenever there's something of significance, there's certain people that are seen to be used to create these things, and they always have this idea, find a way to put a chain and, you know, get that chain broken in somewhere, because actually in Freedom Square, it's like the shackles are open, which is what they're particularly trying to say there. But again, if Bassa was depicted properly, then we could have sent a clearer message, because if he's the one that is leading the revolt, why are
There you
chains
go.
on his hands?
There you go. Look at him. And it's one of the most prominent aspects of the statue.
Yeah.
You know,
So
you see it, it's clear.
You know, so there's always this thing about breaking away, you know, or trident on the flag is the broken trident. You know, you got Bassa, chains are broken. You come into Hero Square, chains are broken. This is symbolic of our breaking away, you know, and we're not going anywhere. You know,
yeah.
So the reality is that I think there has to be a reality, because Gratney Prescott, they talked about the flag of Barbados. You know, he lived in Bristol, England, and in Bristol, England, hopefully if Dave can quickly find a picture of it, in the center of Bristol, England, there is a 30-foot statue. There it is. So you see those curves represent shackles. You see? And I know what that area is. That area that they have as Hero Square is a portal. Because if you look on the back of it, the shackles, you'll see it's all brass. And you can see that they have little statues of people who are attempting to pull those shackles open right there. You see? So it's not freedom. It's not freedom if our people are pulling shackles over. Then it's freedom when the master comes and releases you. So the people who depict those things always, I don't know why they always have chains attached to these things. I have no idea why they would do it. But if you're dealing with persons on the side of the demonic, you'll get that over and over and over. People, when they go there, they should really pay attention. Now that dark area is brass, okay? Or sorry, it's copper. And copper is one of the most widely used metals for electrical circuitry. Okay, so I can tell you that area right there that they call Hero Square is a portal. And I hope Christians understand what I'm saying. And if they want to challenge me on it, they can do that. I will explain exactly what that is. I'll tell Barbados exactly what that is, and I can prove to you, because even though it's there, you'll seldom find people in it, because that's what it's created for. But over and over again, as I said, in the town center of Bristol, England, there's a 30-foot statue of Poseidon or Neptune, and he has his full trident.
Full trident, that's right.
His full trident, right? You'll find that picture online very easily. He has his full trident, and it is at 33 degrees. It's at a 33-degree angle. Okay, and so when he was there, he did the flag with the blue and with the yellow, and then seeing that trident there and knowing that Spikestown was called Little Bristol, and there was great trade between Bristol, England, and Barbados through Spikestown, or Speightstown as they particularly call it, that had 4 schooners. So said, okay, well, listen, we're breaking away from England. There it is. So we're supposed to be breaking away from England. So what would be better to use? A broken trident to suggest that we are breaking away from England.
We're breaking away.
But hey, Neptune, Poseidon has nothing to do with Barbados. It had nothing to do really with the terms of royalty, even though they have it like that. And then there's an area where you would have an insignia where he's riding on his horses with the trident in his hand. So, and he was living in Bristol, England, when he created our flag and won the competition, and that's where he got it from. So
very interesting.
There's a lot of stuff that Barbadians don't understand. A broken trident does not suggest we have broken away from England. And I keep telling them, you go online, the information is there. Barbados was willed to King Charles when Queen Elizabeth died. He owns Barbados. He owns Barbados. So this whole republic thing is trickery. He owns Barbados. And I was, talking to someone that said, listen, you guys don't understand what's going on. That whole issue in St. Joseph with the land and that massive house that was built there, that's the man is a sir. He's one of the king's men. He's one of the king's men. All it took was a letter to King Charles. I've visited Barbados. I've seen a piece of land that I like. And it's just a matter of a letter from King Charles to the powers that be here to release it to him. It's that simple.
Well, the thing is that a lot of this is and this is the plan. You see, a lot is concealed, a lot is hidden, a lot is done in secret. And
exactly.
This was one of the things when I began the show, I began talking about the matters of transparency and accountability. And this is one of the reasons that very often government is not transparent. And I will not apologize for holding their feet to the fire, because in 2018, when they ran for office, they ran for office on the 2 major planks: transparency
Correct.
and accountability, because they accused the then administration of not being transparent and accountable. But I think we have grown to understand the role of hypocrisy within the context of our politicians in Barbados. But Apostle, let's shift on, if I can.
Yes, sir.
Very informative, and someone is saying, that this is very interesting history.
Yes, sir.
Really interested history. That is Sonia Grant. So true, real interesting history tonight, and I love it. The matters of cost of living, food prices, and utilities. Now, you would have heard the, and I think you were part of our discussion to do with the construction of a data center in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have observed in my research is that almost every place a data center has been constructed and is operating, there has been significant increase in utility costs. That is water and electricity. Of course, if there's an increase in those factors, such as we had seen happen as a result of the war in Iran, the Strait of Hormuz.
Mm-hmm.
We saw prices go up here, and I believe I know how supermarket people work. I worked in that industry. Nobody can talk nonsense to me. Things are sitting in the warehouse that you had in before any prices went up, but the prices went up and you applauded was already in the country. I know that.
Yes,
But
sir.
what is also troubling to me, Apostle, I happen to know, and I can show you on my phone, and I had discussions with business people when we were in Colombia, that Barbadian businessmen, the private sector, the merchants within the context of supermarket supplies and purchases, there was a government-led entourage to Brazil. And Brazil is one of the most cost-effective countries in the world at the moment for the provision of food supplies. They're one of the largest exporters of food to the United States. And I know this for a fact because I have made contact and I've spoken about it here on the show on more than one occasion. But what is troubling for us is that we have merchants in Barbados who have accessed cheaper first costs for food.
Okay.
But we do not see that translated into reduced prices on our supermarket shelves. As a matter of fact, if you see an increase in fuel in Barbados, in terms of diesel fuel, gasoline, most instances I think diesel, because most of our communication in terms of food and so on are done by diesel vehicles. You see an increase in food costs within a couple of days. But when the oil prices have been dropping nonstop for the last couple of weeks, yet we see no reflection in a reduction in fuel costs significantly here in Barbados, and no reduction in food prices, and by extension, the cost of living. Because the two major, I think the two major consumers of revenue from persons who work is food and utilities.
Correct. Ralph, can I say something here quickly?
Sure.
All right.
I hope I provoked you.
Yeah. I'm going to say it now. Last month, and I spoke to my wife about it. When I had it, I had a vision. I was going to say about it, and we had a conversation. Because I usually share with her whenever I get certain visions. This one I had was I had a visitation from a Chinese angel, and I was taken into the parliament of the Chinese government, and he said, "Come, and I want to show you some plans, and I want to show you some invasion plans that China has, and I want to show you the plans that China has for the Caribbean, and especially Barbados. I need you to know about it." And so I was showing these things, and then he said, "Now, took me over to the Strait of Hormuz." And when I got there, he showed me President Donald Trump, and the president of Iran with wine glasses in their hands toasting. Okay, and when I came out of that vision, I was talking to my wife. I love history, so I went to find out the name of Hormuz, where that name actually came from, and it says that name is a Persian name, and it is Ahura Mazda. Okay, that's the original name, Ahura Mazda, and it is translated the wise Lord. So these people are operating with deities, and these deities that they're operating with allows them to make one move that affects the whole world. And what you will see here in Barbados with these people who are using man-made wisdom, just like they did, the insurance companies did in 2001 with the World Trade Center bombing. They took up insurance prices in Barbados, stating that because of that activity, it affects insurance prices here. So they're saying now, because of what is going on there, it's affecting the cost of living here in Barbados. So they're using demonic wisdom to control their people. And that's how I saw where they were toasting, because each time you would have the president come, he will say, we're very close to reaching an agreement. Then they'll go over here to Turkey and Iran and the United States a meeting, and then you have all of this stuff going on. It's a game that is being played on the world. And unfortunately, we have an administration that loves that type of activity, that loves any moment where they can put pressure on the people and make more money off the people of Barbados. Now, here's the thing that we have to recognize. How do you expect your people to be healthy if you're forcing your people to live below their means and eat stuff on the lower levels and eat unhealthily and expect to have a healthy society if you continuously raise gas prices when you know you're not on the OPEC index? You allow the Barbados Light and Power to consistently raise the cost of the electric bill. You continually tax the people. You don't give them an ease. You don't do anything. You don't allow them to get their own solar panels and whatever so that they can ease themselves. So you're obviously putting pressure on the system on a certain level to see whether or not you can quell that level down and then open it up at a higher level. If you notice right now, most government housing projects are pretty much over, but you go to Corverley, you'll see the large investment. You will see what is going on up there. You'll see houses that are 500,000, 600,000, 700,000, 1 million, 1.2, 1.3, 1.5. You see all of that's happening. That area is booming. So you'll see that Barbados is moving towards opening its doors to the people who can afford to come in here. They're building for those people. They're not building for their people. Because banks are not going to be interested in a loan for 250,000 or 310,000. They're not interested in that anymore. That's not where the money is. So you can see that's where our government, they're not focused there any longer. So the other aspect is you have the high-end supermarkets that are here in Barbados. And those high-end supermarkets, they're forcing it, and the other smaller supermarkets, like for instance, let's, geographically, if let's look at the Jordans change. Here in Spikestown, we have Jordans, and we also have Eddie's, okay, which pretty much are, St. Lucie, St. Peter, St. Andrew, parts of St. Joseph, parts of St. Thomas, that St. Joseph that comes into Spikestown to shop there, because those supermarkets are supposed to be the more economical supermarkets, okay? So if you look at Jordans, where Jordans, there are 4 locations. There's Spikestown, there's Baxter's Road, okay? There's Fairchild Street, I think, it's Fairchild Street, and then it's Fitz Village. So you can see that Jordan's branding was, to be located where the average Barbadian can reach them. So when you look at what is happening in Barbados, and you zero in on the assignment of the enemy in Barbados, you recognize, oh, wait a minute, this is something that we need to fix now before we start losing our people that have the right to prosper in their own country, because you have a government that no longer cares about the average person. And I can prove that. I wanted to do a video of it. There's a road in Mile and a Quarter that goes up to Matura, and that road was recently fixed. It was recently paved. And I told the gentleman, listen, this road is not for you. You guys benefit from this road, but this road is not being done for you guys. This road is being done for the folk who are coming to Viewmont, which is the high-end, returning national residents that we have on top of Mount Bremerton. So that road goes and it's paved from the junction by Trimart, and it goes right up to and it stops at the entrance, Rev. It stops at the entrance of Viewmont. So those folk who are driving their, big and flashy vehicles, they pave that road for them. They're not going to want them driving their roads on no crazy. But if you want to know what's going on, you continue on that road and you'll see what the folk who are living in French Village and Fort Hill and Indian Ground, you'll see what kind of road they have to drive on once they pass that area. So we have a government that is clearly demonstrated to Barbados, we're not about the people. We're about those who can come here and spend money with no issues. So,
well, yeah, sorry. Before we run off, because we have just about 10 minutes left on the show, because you mentioned just now, the cost of housing in Coverley. And as I mentioned on the show before, I had someone speaking to me about low-income housing, low-income housing in Lancaster, where he had applied. And the house is anywhere in the ballpark of around $330,000. Okay. Now, it is ridiculous for us to talk about $330,000 as low income. If you go to Lancaster and you look at the houses in Lancaster, there are small 600 square foot homes that persons could have the room to develop. I mean, when I look at even Coverley, a lot of Coverley homes are very small, with zero line mark capability, very little space between the homes, and they're hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, I understand, however, that one of the challenges facing Barbadians at the moment in terms of, for example, the cost of rentals, because all of this points toward the whole aspect of cost of living, is the Airbnb capability.
Right.
A lot of persons are putting their properties into Airbnb. They're making a lot more money from it, and you can't blame them. You can't quarrel with them for doing that. But what has happened as a result is that the cost of rental to locals has gone up significantly in terms of what you have to pay for a room, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, that type of thing. So government doesn't seem to be looking to address processes that could help to reduce that component in terms of cost of living. And then the other thing, as I mentioned, is the aspect of food prices. I was shocked. I was shocked the other day, walked into the supermarket. I can't remember what I picked up, but I had picked it up just about a week before at about $3.10. Now, again, knowing the supermarket industry because I worked in it for some time, you would expect an increase of $3.10, maybe to $3.50, $3.75. But the particular commodity was now $5.25.
Wow.
That is a massive increase.
It is.
It is almost a 100% increase. And it makes me wonder, because at the moment I'm listening to the new Minister of Agriculture carefully to people when they speak. We have lost a lot of land in Barbados that was agricultural land to housing development. And I listened to the current Minister of Agriculture speaking to the matter of technological, I'm going to put it in my words, technological farming. And I thought to myself, this is another strategy to continue converting agricultural land into housing development, because if I can encourage you to go technological in terms of your agricultural development, then you don't need all the land. We know about how, I understand there was a young man here that set up a container, agriculture container process up in New York, and he's doing very, very well. He's from Barbados. And he's doing it out of containers. He doesn't
Wow.
have the land in New York like we have here in Barbados to do agricultural development and so on. He doesn't have that, but he's doing agriculture out of containers.
Okay.
And what we are seeing in Barbados is a selling off of this country, a divesting of the asset of the people of Barbados, all in the name of investment. The problem we have is that we're not seeing that investment making its way to the people who need it most.
Correct.
And that is the people at the lower income level of our country.
Correct.
You know, and this is something I believe that we need to pay very serious attention to. You know, I am troubled by it because we are seeing massive loans. I think we're in excess of $8 billion in debt at the moment, Barbados.
Mhm.
And I'm troubled because my children's children are going to have to pay this debt
There you go.
long after this government has left the world.
That's true.
My grandchildren and great grandchildren are going to be saddled with this debt. And Barbados at the moment is not earning anything. And so we are earning through investment. But that investment is at the detriment of our local asset, because the only thing investors can invest into Barbados is land.
Pretty much.
There is no oil here that they can come to develop. Well, I don't know what's going to happen now that they found oil off the island. But this is very troubling, and I think it is something that Barbadians need to start asking a lot of questions about and need to start speaking up about.
Yes, sir.
Because it is becoming increasingly impossible. I end on this. Apostle, I had a lady approach me in the Sheraton Mall car park. She approached me for assistance to buy a bottle of bottled gas, a 100-pound cylinder of bottled gas.
Okay.
This lady was not dressed in rags. She did not look like a vagrant. She was not a beggar on the street, as we would understand a beggar to be. She was relatively well dressed with a handbag over her arm and a cell phone in her hand.
Mhm.
Now, I cannot say whether she was being honest or not. I often leave those judgment calls to God, because I've always felt that if you try to steal from me, it is not a very good idea.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes,
I
sir.
know whose child I am. And when you try to steal from his children, you pay the price dearly. Nevertheless, as I looked at her, and she was actually out of a job. She had been laid off from one of these jobs that help to look after the elderly, you know, that kind of thing. And I asked her, you know, she said she sent out applications to several areas, and she hasn't been able to get through with anything. And I was really troubled, because this is not the kind of person you expect to find in Sheraton Mall car park begging for help. And it suggests to me that there is a growing population of poor people who were once middle income people in our country, because the prosperity of Barbados is not getting down to the people who need it.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think, as a government, the Barbados government, notice I said the Barbados government, not the Barbados Labour Party. The Barbados Labour Party does not exist anymore. The Barbados government does. And I say that within the context of an election.
Yes,
After
sir.
election is finished. Parties don't exist. You're dealing with a government that is responsible for the well-being of all the people of this country, regardless of the political affiliation, through the rights of the Human Rights Charter, freedom of association. You cannot penalize a man for that. And so I'm really troubled in terms of the cost of living, and I would really like to hear what is the government's plan to reduce the cost of living in Barbados. And please don't tell me anything about scaling back celebrations for independence, That is a slap in the face of Barbadians. I thought it was
Yes, sir.
disrespectful, disingenuous, and
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous
Yes,
to
sir.
bring us to that
I
point.
completely agree, Rev.
To bring us
Completely agree with that.
to that point where you are like you're doing us a favor. You know,
Yeah,
I
but-
thought it was disrespectful, and coming from the leader of the country,
Oh man,
it does not all go well.
no.
Also,
No.
unfortunately, we have run out of time. I wish we had more time to engage some more of the subjects, even some of those that I've just been trying to touch on these things very quickly. I
Yes,
wish
sir.
we had more time even to review the Right Honourable Freundel Stuart speech and some of the constitutional issues. I'll give you, of course, as we always do, the opportunity for your closing comments in terms of whatever you wish to reference as we wind up this particular night. And it has been an amazing night again. I thank
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Umar Abdullah again as well. I know he's already left us. I want to thank you, Dave, for doing such a tremendous job as always. I want to thank all of you of the loyal opposition for supporting us and sharing and remaining with us throughout these 3 hours. Apostle, your closing remarks.
What I want to say here tonight is, again, we need an administration that will make Barbados work for Barbadians. 3 consecutive terms of this administration has proven that they really do not have the wisdom to lead Barbados into no brighter tomorrow. And the time has come for the people of Barbados who went out from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and voted to make their voices heard. It's time that Barbadians come together and we make a serious determination that we're going to stand up for our country when our government refused to do that, to make things better for our people. And I'll say this, and again, it's my opinion, the time has really come for Barbadians to get together and ask for this administration to resign. That's my point. I have to say that because I do not see Barbados going into any brighter future under this administration. 3 consecutive terms, 330 loves, and Barbados at the end of each 3.5 years is in a worse condition than before. They asked for another time to continue the work that they started, but hey, as I said, BIMPay is making BIMPay, and that's where I want to close tonight, sir.
Well, I certainly want to thank you for taking the time again to be with us. I really do appreciate you dedicating yourself to these Friday night shows. Unfortunately,
Yes,
we were unable to have Carolyn and even Maxine join us tonight. And I hope there's nothing wrong with either one of them, but we wish them well, and we do wish them a great weekend. And we want to thank, again, Dave. And I personally want to thank Marcia for entrusting me the responsibility of hosting this show on Friday nights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I can tell you that it has been a challenge accumulating the research and the information
Yes,
so
sir.
that we can do what she has always expressed on this show, Emma: educate, motivate, mobilize, and agitate.
Yes, sir.
And I hope and able again in this session. We haven't been able to take the people's voice, so to speak, Facebook comments and YouTube comments. We've been putting some of them up there, viewer
Yes.
questions and so on. But for the love of our country, we are going to continue to agitate, educate, mobilize, motivate, and agitate.
And agitate. Yes, sir.
And we are the official opposition. We are
Yes,
the
sir.
loyal opposition in Barbados. And I saw one of the ministers this afternoon in a function that I was in, and I said to him, don't be upset with our challenging of you and of your colleagues. Don't be upset.
Right.
We have a right to ask you questions. It doesn't mean I don't like you.
Right.
It just
Exactly.
means that I love my country more than I like you.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
we
sir.
ask the questions, we put it to the government, and as I can tell what Mr. Umar said earlier. We have invited, I personally have invited government ministers and officials to come on the show, and let's have a discussion with the people. And today, not one has accepted it. So we will leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
Again, Apostle, thank you so very much for being here. Your insights into so many aspects are so critically important.
Yes, sir.
We do want to understand, folk, as we close the session, that
Yeah.
everything you see physically has its origin in the spirit realm.
Yes, sir.
And
Reverend,
so it's very,
before we close, I just want to tell you, you look sharp tonight, sir.
oh, thank you so very much. My wife dressed me. You know, I put on a couple of things, and the first one I put on, she said, no, take that off. The second one I put on, she said, that's too wide for your shoulders. So
yes, sir.
The third one I put on, she said, okay, I think you can go ahead with that. But she wasn't totally enthralled with me wearing a coat. She thought I should be a little more informal. But I said, no,
okay.
I expect
Awesome.
Apostle on tonight. I have to at least come relatively close to him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're
Awesome.
always so, I think the word is dapper, or I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
always so wonderfully attired. And,
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Well, Dave,
My
we're
pleasure.
going to turn it over to you to take us out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here again tonight. God bless you and have a great, great weekend. Over to you,
God
Dave.
bless.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Now the preacher tell me, teacher tell me, everybody used to tell me that anytime you want a song impressive. And my mother tell me, father tell me, even my grandmother tell me, you got to learn to be expressive. Anytime you want to show your potential, proper English and national language is essential. Check out to the land, and you could search all over. Nobody could talk like me. And when you come and ask she about crime in this country, she say we need stronger communities. And when you come and ask she about carry community, she say you're going Guyana with Sheffer ID. Scam not get flex, scam not start a ball. Then kidnap a man, they could do that to Winston Hall. Just like Ninja Man, me said they had to have a warrant in hand, so it was no kidnapping at all. And you gotta talk like me, speak like me, show the world you coulda do it like she. Talk like me, speak like me, show the world you coulda do it like she. And you gotta show them how you could run a country. I heard Tom Adams, Reese John, Radford Pitt, and David Thompson talking politics back in the day. I remember Billy, remember Sleepy, Eric Seeley, and Don Blackman calling big words got people amazed. I remember Tudor with his Oxford accent, Dean Harry Pitchlow on the radio so eloquent. But that was the past, but now today and future, the queen of speeches is now me. And when you come and ask she about prices, about here killing me, she say she got to give me compensation. And when you come and tell she we need sporting facilities, she say we soon gonna get a new stadium. And they say she is the savior of Barbados. Made us perform miracles just like Jesus, cause she got the head and she got the ability, cause she raised from the dead. Chris and Lashley, talk like me, speak like me, show the world you coulda do it like she. Talk like me, speak like me, I don't fear that she can let us agree. But me, I gonna show them how you could run a country.